Milanisti of the world. It's your hosts, Husnich and Shano, reporting to you. So we picked a great time to start our podcast, especially one game before a very lengthy break for the World Cup, but we still want to bring you some content. So, obviously, we want to give a rundown about the season so far, the players, how the players did. We're going to give our input into how we think the Milan players are going to, do at the World Cup, those that are featuring. So, yeah, what do you think, Cosney?
Yes, as you said, it's a great time to look back. In the almost half of the season, it's been 15 games in. So usually we do this about 18, 19 games in. But seeing as how we have that World Cup break, better now than when we are into our, you could say, last stretch of games, especially considering that there's been one sort of competitive game played yesterday in the friendly. So we'll see how we recap the players, how they've done, and yeah, see how we feel as Milanistis. All right, Shane,
Yeah, looking forward to it. Hyped.
you start us off.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, I've put together some pictures, and we'll go through each of the players. And so, Shane, you give some thoughts, and maybe at the end we'll just do whether we think that they've been outstanding, we'll give them a pass, or we could say that they've failed, maybe. So let's start with our main man right here. What do you think?
Mr. Giroud, I think for a player that's his age to be consistently doing what he's doing, it just shows you the professionalism, the drive, great character. Um, Arguably, I think he's getting called upon too much, but I suppose it makes sense when you look at the lack of depth that we have in that department, right? Because I mean, who else are we going to call on? Origi. It's just not working out at the moment. But Giroud has been exemplary. He's been amazing. To think that we paid 1 million for, I think, was it 1 million
Yeah, it's a million.
of a transfer free? I mean, the value that we've gotten out of this man. I mean, I can't speak highly enough. Anytime he's called upon, he's doing it. He's very dangerous every game he plays in, mostly. But yeah, I think for me, maybe score out of 10, 10 being highest, I'd probably give him I'm going to give him a 9. Um, that's how much I value his contribution. How about you, Husney?
Yeah. First of all, I fully agree with your 9 out of 10. What I want to add on to that is that Giroud is a symbol of consistency as well up front. So there were a lot of skeptics, a lot of doubters when he first joined us at the beginning of last season. Because let's face it, guys, he's not in his prime in any way. Yeah. If you go by the numbers, he's not in his prime. And even when he was back in Chelsea, he was practically on the bench and came off as a super sub. Something that he was doing, to be fair, since his Arsenal days. But with Milan, it has been, you could say, a different Giroud. So he started games for us, whereas in the EPL, he would just be on the bench mainly. I know that he started a few games there, but he wasn't their main striker. But since he's joined us, he's consistently been delivering. And this is also one thing that I would like to add is that I don't think we've had this level of consistency since you could say Zlatan when he joined us about a few years back. And for our number nine, our standard number nine, uh, I'm I'm now of the belief that maybe we need someone who's a little older, a little proven, physical, to be able to fit that particular mold. Because we've not had this level of number nine since Inzaghi, and let's face it, Inzaghi in this team, if we were to like bring the Inzaghi of that era into this particular team, maybe he wouldn't do as well. But Giroud is really proving doubters wrong. Back in the national team, what more could you want from the guy? And especially the clutch goals. Come on, guys, these are match-winning goals. This is the Giroud that we have, and 9 out of 10. I know that some of you out there might even give him higher than that, which is fair. All right.
It's true. I just think it speaks to how much of a professional he really is, though. I mean, to be consistently doing this at his age, against Italian defenses, and against defenses in the Champions League as well. Look, let's not talk about Chelsea. That was what it was. But I mean, he's really doing it. He's showing up. I think it's a very good point what you said there. Maybe giving him a comparison to Inzaghi. He's like an Inzaghi that doesn't get caught offside as much, right?
Yeah,
Because I think he's a bit smarter in types in his style of play. But yeah, I mean, I can't speak highly enough about him. I mean, kudos Milan. This was a great buy. This is a great buy.
indeed. And what I want to add to the Inzaghi comparison is that I don't remember, and I might have to watch the tapes back on this one. I don't remember Inzaghi being that threatening when he was in the air. So Giroud, he's got it all. I mean, crossing into the box, you expect Giroud to connect one on one. I've seen a few times where maybe the one on one isn't great, but most of the time you expect him to score. And I think now he's our main penalty taker, which since Mr. K left, is definitely another plus. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. Is that Shane?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, Mr. Hauger. Oh, what I meant, Mr. Yassin Adli. What do you think of this one, Shane? If you remember any of his performances in the past 15 games.
Yeah. It's you see, I'm in two minds about this one, right? Because the fact that he's not playing, I think Pioli sees something on the training ground that he probably doesn't like. And we have to obviously trust his judgment. So, it would be a shame if he does get the Hauge treatment. I hope it doesn't, because I do see some great flair and a lot of potential in this kid. But I mean, if he's to go down to the likes of, let's say, I think the important thing is that he stays in the Italian league, right? And I think this will probably you'll know how dedicated and maybe loyal Milan are to keeping this kid if he gets loaned to someone like, let's say, I don't know, maybe Torino or Monza, right? Then you'll know Milan are probably they're serious about keeping him. If he goes over somewhere to, I don't know, France, back to France or to Germany, he, I can pretty much tell you at that point that they're just looking to sell him on, you know, because them keeping him in the Italian league should be what they need to do. So he gets used to the league, he gets used to the tempo, and he can grow and excel. Um, the brief flashes again in the friendly games. I really liked what I seen, but since that during the season, in competitive play, he just hasn't been there. Um, so yeah, hopefully we can see him on loan. He'll probably score a match winner against us if he goes to somewhere like Torino, and that's how we lose the Serie A. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, let's see. But not good at all, really, in terms of rating. I mean, I don't even think I can actually rate him, basically based on what I've seen, because I don't think it's a fair comparison. So I'm just gonna not rate this kid.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and it's difficult when we haven't seen that much of him. Other than, I mean, to be fair, if you rate him purely on his preseason, you could actually give him quite a high score. He was that good in the preseason. But then, since we've started all the competitive games and when all the other players have come back, it's been a different story. And as you've said, yeah, a loan spell would help a player, any player in that situation. But then again, who would want to take a player on a dry loan, which is probably something that we're looking for, and a player who's barely even played, and for whatever reason, and
Only
like that.
Milan do that.
So sorry.
Only Milan do that. Only
Yeah,
Milan do
we
dry
we
loans.
will take anybody.
Yeah.
In Germany, we will take anybody, be it the guy who's never played, Mandzukic, or the kid who's who's barely had any first team minutes in Lazatic. These are the sort of moves that we make. But I don't see other teams taking him. But I faith in him, and in the games that he's played, I and feel free to let us know in the comments if you disagree with me. In the games that Adley has played, I do see him as being a sort of a Benacer type player. And keep in mind that Benacer, he didn't start off that great as well. Keeping in mind that, with Gianpaolo, no one did any great. And had we stuck with him or given him time, we would probably be in Serie B right now. But, let's give this kid some time. And everyone's been giving players like CDK some time and mentioning Liao and all that, but Ali should be in the same boat. Why do we, just because he hasn't played as often? Why do we be so quick to assume that he should be out on loan or something like that? Because yesterday, and I know that today that Tonali's come back, we probably need options. And a player like Adley would probably accept the fact that maybe his first season he wouldn't be the starter unless something magical happened or he really showed something super in training. But he should be realistic about his chances. After all, it's a competition for spots. All right. So the next
What
one,
rating would you give him? Or are you gonna
I'll give him two
are you
ratings.
gonna
Yeah, for preseason, I'll
yeah.
actually give him an 8. For the
Hmm.
match, the only match he started against Torino, I think the one that we lost. Was it Torino, the one that we lost? I think so. He started that game.
Yeah, I think so. I believe
Yeah.
so, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would
Or
give
was it
him,
Cremonese? I get confused.
or maybe Cremonese. Yeah. Sorry, you're
Yeah.
right. Maybe it was the Cremonese game. I would give him a
Hmm.
5. Okay. Let's
Makes
move on
sense.
to the next one. This is our featured only one game, but Shane, what do you think of this kid? Yeah, keep in mind he's still a kid, probably the youngest guy to have featured in our first team.
So he scored 2 goals in the under 19s. Who's he play for again?
Serbia, Serbia.
Serbia. So he scored 2 goals in the under
We
19s.
don't count them. Yeah, they can score like hat tricks or like 10 goals in the national team, but our count is when they play for us.
Yeah, I think that this kid is a funny one. Because I admire him in the way that he actually said, "Look, I want to stay and I want to fight for a place," and that's a hell of a thing to do for a kid. I mean, considering that you're going up against, let's say Ibrahimovic and Giroud and Origi, right? But still, you're going up against that caliber of player, and he chose to stay. So, I mean, based on that, I mean, I can't fault his efforts, but it's just, yeah, I not to go back to that Torino game because I think I still have a bit of PTSD about it. But I mean, Pioli brought him on for that game. I mean, we were down, we were losing. Was it 2-1? Pioli brings on Lazetic. I mean, Lazetic, surely, that's essentially just kind of signing off and saying, right, I don't think we're going to win anyway. You know,
What do you call the sympathy
uh,
minute? That 10
yeah,
minutes.
like, I mean, what's the best you're going to get out the kid? Because there's too much pressure on him. Then, I mean, he's the kind of a player that you either introduce right from the start in the Coppa Italia against, a team that I probably can't pronounce, right? Or let's say we're doing really well, we're up 4-1 at home, put him on for the last 10 minutes. You know, give him some minutes. But yeah, there must be something about him. Milan don't keep, I mean, we've seen this with the likes of Hauge. Even I know probably a different story, but maybe Cotrone. The Milan do tend to sell if they see players peaked. Um, Hauge, I haven't really followed his career after he's left us, being honest. Um, I hope he's doing well. But I know with Cotrone, we sold him at peak. I think his career after he left us has shown that. So Milan must see something in this kid. I just think it's going to be a case of patience, and if he comes through for us, there'll be a striker. We could have a ready-made striker that's just ready to go. Obviously, based on, I'm not going to give a 19-year-old any type of rating just for a couple of minutes against Torino. It's not fair on him. So yeah, no rating for me, but again, cautiously optimistic about his future just based on the amount of time that Milan are keeping him around, and they must see something in him. How about you?
Yeah, again, I fully agree with you. It's players like these that there's a player in there somewhere or player that will soon be there. It happens with anyone at that age, yeah. So you rarely get those players that come in at 18, 19 years old and immediately scoring those hat tricks and giving you 10, 15, 20 goals a season. Uh, those sort of players, other teams will probably snap them up for 100 million, 150 million. Yeah, and it's just not us. So with these players, you take a calculated risk. You know that they're good. You know they have potential. You see where how far they can go. My issues with Lazatic, and even though he's only been, I think, just one appearance for us in that game, in the Primavera, it has not been all great for him as well. So he's been injured. Yeah, let's not skirt around the topic. He does have a little bit of an injury issue, and in the games whereby we won, especially in the in the champ youth, you call it what, youth Champions League, Champions whatever league,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
youth league.
I don't
Yeah,
know the name. Yeah, yeah, but
so he
yeah, I
didn't
know what
feature
you mean.
in those games, I think. And
Mm.
in those games, the players that were outstanding, for example, Chaka Traore, Kubis, or Alessi, those are the players that were really outstanding. Last stage, I don't recall him being amazing for those games as well. Uh, but we have faith in the players, and like what we mentioned with Ali, maybe it's a case of time. But what's important for players like him, Adley, and everyone else who's barely getting game time is that you need time on the field for them to really show what they're made of. And I don't know what is the plan for Lazatic. And yeah, as you mentioned, if he goes out on loan, that would be great. But even if he does go out on loan, this is where I think the magic of Maldini and Massaro, they really need to come to the front and tell clubs. And it doesn't even have to be a Serie A club or EPL clubs, La Liga, because let's admit, yeah, a dry loan player, they probably won't get that much time. But he can probably go to a league outside of the top five, a decent team, maybe play a quarter of the season if possible. That would be great for a player like him, yeah. And I think the same
That's
thing.
it, Lazatic. Pack your bags for Celtic.
Maybe, yeah.
You're
And
going up.
by the way,
You're going to Scotland.
Celtic is a competitive team, so
Mm.
I don't think he'll be able to get minutes there. By the way, they have
True.
their own talent.
True.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. Ah, another maybe 1 or 2 game man. I think he's played minutes here and there, but as a start, I don't remember seeing him as a start. But what do you think, Mister Florenzi?
It's a tricky one because as a player, you know the way you develop a soft spot for certain players. Um, I think Florenzi's kind of really shown he's a lot of character. Uh, he's a lot of character. He works really hard. I don't think the skill is necessary there, but I don't think it matters because he wasn't really bought to be a starter. I think it was a smart transfer in a lot of ways. Because even though I know I've just said he's not the most skillful player in the world, I do think consistently he's been, um, he's been maybe overlooked by the likes of Roma, and I could never understand why. So the bits I'd seen of him, I mean, he did his job and he did it well. I think especially at the start of the season, I know we seen him enough where I'd like to give him, maybe a positive rating just based on that. So, I mean, I'd give him a solid 6 just based on that alone. And my only fear with him is that I think what is he now, 32?
Yeah, much older than
And he's
well,
yeah.
slightly younger
Well,
than Kier, maybe. Yeah,
yeah, and the thing is he's going to be coming back after. This is a long injury. Absolutely, like this is a a serious injury that he's coming back with. So I'd be concerned that if there is a lack, he was never the fastest player in the world anyway. But if this further destroys, let's say his speed or his acceleration, I don't think he's going to be as effective. Um, So yeah, I'll give him a 6, but I'd be a bit concerned about his future with us, to be honest. How about you?
I would give him actually a slightly higher, and maybe you could say I'm catching him on some sympathy points. So even though this guy has been injured, he's actually done a little bit more for the club. So yeah, you see him in the promo videos. He went to New York promoting the club. Granted, it's an all expenses paid trip, but yeah, actually he's working, so it's not completely bumming up while being injured. You're right. The one thing that you've mentioned is about his injury record. That is starting to bug me quite a bit. He was injured for a while last season. It's happening again this season. My concern has been these players that have recurring long-term injuries, and I count Florenzi as one of those. players as well. We need everyone back. But one thing that I like to say, and this is a great positive about Florenzi, whenever he's come back from injury, I thought that he did quite very well as compared to our starting last season. And I know I'm digging up a bit of the past. Last season, when he came back from injury, he did much better than Calabria as right back. I would have actually preferred him to be a starting right back than Calabria in some of those games. But it is what it is, and we look forward to a much stronger Florenzi when he returns. We've seen it before that it doesn't really matter much for youth and development if you don't have the performances that go with it. He can be solid as a right back, and he can be a starting right back. So I don't have issues with that. Going up front, we know that he has the ability to score. He scored for us before last season. He does have some crosses. So with that experience, even though I would agree with you giving that six, maybe a bit higher, 7 out of 10, considering that of the sort of leadership probably provides in the changing room. But yeah, we got to play more to get a higher score. That's how it works. Okay, let's see who else next. Ah, this is gonna be a interesting one. Mr. Time himself, and probably people want to know why I call him Mr. Time because that's what we're giving him, Mr. Time. What do you think of Mr. CDK, Mr. 35 million?
Yeah, it's difficult. I fully understand the values of patience, right? Because the way I look at it is, probably I know there's a small section of Milan fans that are kind of calling for this kid's head already and asking for him to be either loaned out or transferred. Those are probably the same small group that were wondering why the hell, yeah, a bit. No, but that's probably the same group of people who were wondering why we didn't sell Leao after 6 months because he was drunk, right? But yeah, I think it's a bit of a dangerous situation because I was 2 days ago. I was rewatching the Napoli game just to try and figure out, where the hell we went wrong. Um, and what I noticed about CDK in that game is he was making an awful lot of the right runs, and he was being dangerous, and he was some of the end product obviously isn't there. I think that comes with confidence, but slowly, especially over the last couple of weeks, it's like the pressure has kind of gotten to him to the point where he looks like he's actually getting worse. And that is just pressure because there's no mark on him as a player. You can't just become a bad player. And if you do, it's a more gradual process. It doesn't take a couple of weeks to become useless. So I'm hoping maybe the World Cup will give him a extra couple of minutes in his legs. Maybe if he gets a goal or two for Belgium, assuming he gets some game time, I think we'll be, hopefully it'll just give him a bit of a mental break. I think the type of player that CDK is, I think he'll be featuring an awful lot more for us next year. I'm hoping Diaz goes back to Real. Um, so yeah, overall though, I really can't rate him. I can't rate him positively. So maybe a 4 out of 10.
That's generous in my
Um,
books.
well, the thing is because when he first came, why I'm not giving him like a 1 or a 2 is when he first came, he was doing all the right things. He was making great runs. He was finding passes that you know normal human beings can't usually spot a pass like he was making. Just the end product, his finishing wasn't there. But now it suddenly became a thing where I think in his head he's kind of going, "Oh, I need to get a goal. If I don't get a goal, I don't get a goal. I'm useless." Um, so yeah, I think the 4 essentially is just a rating throughout the whole season from what I've seen him. I could go a bit lower, but I think it's a bit harsh. So yeah, I'll give him a 4. How about you?
Yeah, maybe I'll stick. I'll agree to the four as well. Yeah, so but my comments will be a bit more harsh than than what you said. Uh, yes, when it comes to forward position, everyone's expecting the same. It's either it has to be goals or assists. Let's face it, guys. Every forward on any team, all they expected at doing is goals or assists. In the case of CDK, he's only had one assist, and I'm not going to go as far to say that he's useless. He's not being useless. So if you see the first few games that he's played, he was actually one of the ones that actually started the attack. Yeah, so undeniable. Yeah, he has the vision for it. In the case of the actual goal or assist question, I just I don't think he has the chemistry yet with the players that we have. So by the way, it's not his fault. Yeah, so the chemistry between players takes a while to develop. So if anyone can remember seasons ago, you had Theo and Rebic. They had good chemistry. Liao with Zlatan had good chemistry, especially with the cutback. Benacer and Cassie, they had good chemistry. Now it's Benacer and Tonali because they've played with each other for about what, 2 seasons now. So it takes time to develop that. Keep in mind that I didn't mention any chemistry on our right hand side because we just don't have any, regardless who plays. And if everyone remembers last season, very recently, Kalulu and Tomori, great chemistry as well. The question about CDK is that he has not found a stable enough partner on the pitch to really develop that, those 1-2s, that cross into the header, tap in, those things that you would expect from a forward play. So it has been a bit underwhelming. There is definitely a player in there because yeah, we paid 35 million, and everyone knows his highlight reels from Club Brugge. So he knows everyone knows what he can do. In this team, is just not clicked for him yet. There will come a time, and I honestly do believe this, that it will click for him. But my concern about his development journey in the club is that if he doesn't play well, other players are going to be starting ahead of him. And like I mentioned before, you need game time to really develop as a player, or need to get used to things and to get used to the rhythm, the league, and all that. So if he's not doing well, and you got Diaz starting ahead of him, Krunic, who we'll speak about in a bit about this podcast. Uh, Anyone else can start as a number 10, even Adley, by the way, and Adley is a similar situation, albeit much worse. If he gets more game time, if he gets given the trust on the pitch, and not saying that in the club because he definitely has that in the club. We don't really have a choice. He just joined. But on the pitch, this is where you will eventually you'll see it. Yeah? He will link up with someone. He will be able to read the play better, and he'll be able to give us the stats that we really want as fans. But until then, we really don't have much of a choice. Stick by the kid. 22 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and like you mentioned, Shane is going to the World Cup with Belgium. I doubt he'll start those games, especially we got Kevin De Bruyne, and as an attacking option, they have plenty in Belgium. So I wish him the best in the World Cup, and when he comes back, I hope we have the CDK that everyone was so hyped up about before he joined us. And about the rating, yeah, I covered that already. I think yeah, 4 out of 10. Fully agree with you. Ah, Mr. Pobega came back on loan from Torino. Yeah, that was the last team. So Shane, how about our other young, yeah, comparatively young midfield option? What do you think of this kid?
He shows glimpses of of being something we need. I think he's going to be another player where if you give him another year or two, slowly integrate him, I think he's going to be, he's really going to offer a lot. Now, I don't see him overtaking Benacer or Trinali, but I definitely see him becoming something that we could kind of call upon. He's, he's built well, holds himself well. Um, Arguably in the Champions League, I did feel a bit kind of sorry for him because I mean that's, you know, he spent most of last season playing in a team that was, at best mid-table in the Italian league, and now you're kind of saying, oh, go on, throw on your kit and go to the go to the Champions League, right? Um,
And
so
he
he did
scored.
look a bit out of depth. Yeah, he did. To be fair, he did. But I just in terms of his positioning and what he was doing with the ball, recycling it, he didn't look very comfortable. But I guess that's to be expected, right? I mean, you're 22-year-old. What you expect. Um, I'll give him a 6. Um, Not based on him having a lot of great games, but based on him being a 22-year-old and coming in and not doing anything horrifically wrong. And yeah, like you said, the goal in the Champions League was a nice touch. So I'll give him a 6. How about you?
I'll give him slightly lower. I'll give him a 5 out of 10, and I'll tell you why. My issue with Pobega, and this is an issue that I thought he had fixed by now with all the loan spells. I think, he's overly aggressive on the field, and I think he's already been booked for that. No doubt, there's a player. He's a great midfield option, and he's also a national team player. He's been called up by Mancini a few times, so they do see that he's a player worth having around. Now, when it comes to game time, it's difficult for him to unseat our two stellar options, which is, as you've mentioned, you have Benali, Tonali and Benacer, not Benali. That's almost a combo word there. Uh, but I see he's the only physical midfield option that we have. That was supposed to be Bakayoko, but everyone knows Mr. Bakayoko, who we won't cover for reasons of him not showing up at all. Uh, he is the go-to guy who I thought would have replaced Kessie. And thinking about his last season with Torino, there was a moment at the halfway mark of last season whereby he had the same stats as Kessie, by the way. So he's not poor by any means. It's just that he has not really cemented himself as the in the team to really be that third option. Meaning that if either Benacer or Tonali is not available, then he's the automatic shoe in for rotation. He does get those game times. It's just that in his style is that he doesn't have those diagonal crosses that we see from either Tonali or Benacer. His ball recovery isn't great because, let's admit it, that he's not the fastest kid on the pitch usually. But he's the physical guy. He can do a job, but it's different than what our existing double pivot do. So this is why I think he doesn't feature as much. But again, I'm willing to give this kid the benefit of the doubt. He'll definitely get better because he's playing at a higher standard league, as you mentioned. He's no longer in those bottom or mid-table or bottom half Serie A teams. So sky's the limit for this kid, and the goal is really going to give him the momentum to keep improving, and he is threatening when going forward. Maybe in a 4-3-3, if we ever get to fix that formation as our starting lineup, this he would definitely get a lot more game time. So yeah, I'm glad we have Paul Vega back, and just looking for great things from the kid. Okay. How about this? Rafael Liao. This is going to be an interesting take on a kid. Well, I'm calling them all kids, but yeah, maybe you should say this man right here been stellar for us and really putting in the goals, the assists, those performances, and constantly being picked out as one of the most threatening players ever to be on the pitch wherever we play, even in the Champions League. What do you think of Rafael Leao? And tell me what you think about this renewal situation, because that's definitely a topic for many debates, many discussions on its own.
So yeah, I think renewing him is very important. I think it's very important for the future of the club. For well, when I say the future of the club, I mean for the next 3 or 4 years, right? Because Milan being Milan, if we don't renew him, even if we sell him, let's say um, we sell him in June, right? So let's say we get 160 million. All right. So let's say then that we invest that on the left and the right wing. Um, you're not guaranteed. Uh, Obviously, you're not guaranteed of anything, but you're definitely not guaranteed that the two replacement or the two players that we get. So let's say we get a functioning right wing and a functioning left wing, right? But you're not guaranteed that the two of those are going to work out. So let's just say we could go back to some sort of weird problem where, let's say, the right wing works out, and now the left wing is a problem. So chances are, even if the right wing works out really well, it's not going to work out to get the numbers or the assists and goals and to be the threat that Leao is. Because to be honest, I think there's very few players in the world that can do that. So I just think it's very important that we do renew him. Just again, I can't say this enough. He's the type of player that you build a team around. He is that good, and for me, he's a future Ballon d'Or winner. So I think we keep him. We do whatever we need to do. We can do it Barcelona. Sell rights to the stadia. I don't know however the hell Milan want to do it, but just get money in from somewhere and just renew him because this kid is worth it. Um, in terms of his overall season, I will give him an eight, just 8 out of 10, just based on some of the Champions League games. He did disappear. However, I don't understand why he did disappear because essentially, if you're on a team that has no right wing and you're the left wing, then the team
The
that you're
only way.
playing against instantly knows that exactly it's easy for them to throw two players on you because they know that there's nothing coming from the right essentially. So yeah, maybe a bit harsh, but I mean, 8 out of 10. He's probably going to be the higher scoring player for Milan for me this year.
Yeah,
So yeah, how about you?
yeah, no disagreement from me there. And I just want to come back to one performance that was, I think, particularly electric, if I can use that word for Liao. It was the derby against Inter. So you remember yeah, I think he had a goal and an assist, I think, in that game. Yeah. So that was an amazing performance by us, even though the scoreline shows it's tighter, it wasn't. Yeah. So that last goal by Zeko wasn't enough to really cause us enough trouble. We managed to take it all the way to the end. But this is the sort of player that Liao is that he provides those electric performances. He's able to take the goalkeeper one on one. Usually, uh, I think there's only once whereby he screwed up a one on one chance. That was against Torino, if I'm not mistaken, once or twice, I think. Those one on one
Yeah, again,
chances.
that's why I PTSD about that game because just everything that could go wrong just went wrong, and it got worse and worse as the game went on.
Yeah, but it's not his fault, definitely. So had he scored those goals, we would have been so much closer to Napoli, and you could say the Milan fans would be in much better mood. But he didn't. Was it his fault that he didn't score those goals? Yes. Was it his fault that we lost the game? No, because you would expect other players to step up and really provide that attacking threat. And yeah, like you mentioned, Shane, being the pillar of our left wing means that he's the pillar of our only wing that works. I'm not saying that no one else scored from the right wing because we've had goals coming from the right before, but it's just not enough in terms of the contribution or the performance that we would expect. Because he has that ability that given enough space, him versus one other defender, he's winning that. Yeah, and we've seen it against countless teams, except yeah, like you mentioned, against Chelsea. That I think what's his name, Reece James. Yeah, got the better of him quite a few times, and in the game against Cremonese, I think he couldn't get past his man. But we'll count those off as the few and far between. Most of the time, Liao is a player that you'd expect to score, and him being MVP of last season, I if he keeps up, you know, maybe slightly better performances than his last few games, I don't see an issue for him to win the MVP award again. Uh, him compared to Kvicha, for example, I'll pick Liao any day. Kvicha is good, no doubt. He has a lot of talent, but the speed of Liao is just on another level. And like you mentioned,
That's you can't buy that. That's a natural gift. You can't buy that. And that's
yeah,
why I just think, man, we got to keep this kid. Really do.
and the only way to get the Ballon d'Or, and like you mentioned that award, is that if you win the Champions League, Liao is automatically a shoe in for getting the Ballon d'Or. This is practically how it works. You are the best player of the team that wins the Champions League, you get the Ballon d'Or. So it's a matter of how far are we willing to go to keep him. And if we don't keep him, I would understand the reasons why. But what does that say about our project? Because this is what we've been about for a few years now. Get these players in young, they develop, they become stellar players, and they can take this team next 5 to 10 years. But if this player leaves after 3 years, two of them not great, I don't know what to say about the management. And he's not just about his performance on the field; he's also a symbol of what the future of our project looks like. But that being said, Liao, Yeah, I think you give him 8 out of 10. I think. Yeah, 8 out of 10. Had he scored those goals against Torino, it would have been 9 or 10 maybe, because we needed to win that game. God knows we needed to win that game. All right. Ah, this picture you sent to me, Shane, in the WhatsApp. Yeah, I put this one on. It's really shows the state of we could say the mental image of Milan fans. What we have of Mike at this stage of the season. What do you think, Shane? You think it's becoming a little too common to see Mike out of action? Because for most other keepers, you gotta admit, other keepers they're not injured this long or this often as Mike has, and he just joined us last season, the beginning of last season.
I know, yeah, but that's the great thing about being a Milan fan. You know, one of your backup keeper is blind, and your first keeper is absolutely amazing, but he's very injury prone. Um, if you put the two of them in goal, you know, it'd be a great match, I guess, or it'd be great for us, but obviously we can't. So no, I think this is why I have so much faith in the Milan scouting department. I mean, we let Donnarumma go on a free, and the world was ending because we lost a prodigy that we created basically, and then we swapped him out with essentially, on his day is probably one of the top three goalies in the world. So the injury thing, it doesn't concern me so much. I just think he's been very unlucky, especially when one of his bigger injuries tended to be, a broken wrist. Like, I mean, you know, it's one of the perils of the game. Just if a player's unlucky, that's what happens. But really looking forward to having him back. Yeah, I think I'm very excited for January. He's one of the main reasons why, because I think just his presence in behind the likes of Kalulu, Tamori makes a big difference. Makes a big difference to that defense. So obviously, I haven't seen him much this campaign. Well, especially for the last few games, we haven't seen him. I think I'd probably give him. I'm going to give him a 6, knowing full well that I'll probably be giving him an 8 or a 9 if he had played all the games. But obviously he hasn't. So yeah, I'll give him a 6. How about you?
Well, I will speak about his performances. I mean, he did play for us. I think about 7 games in total. He played a quarter of the season, you could say. So in those games, and I wouldn't pin it all on him. Yeah. So we know he's a keeper of great caliber. He's soon to be whenever Hugo Lloris retires from the French team, I think the starting keeper for the French national team, which he fully deserves. But this injury record thing, and I said it a bit earlier on, is that it's starting to become quite a big worry. Yeah. So our players are consistently or regularly becoming injured, and for a keeper to have a muscle injury, that's especially worrying because you got to admit, guys, is that keepers they don't do much movement as compared to other players on the field. I know in training there's a lot more in terms of the aerial ability, being able to move, move like a cat or whatever you want to call it. But they got to stay healthy, and the fact that and this is what's frustrating as a Milan fan is that that this keeper is great, but the fact that he can't play, is really denting our chances of getting that second star. Against Napoli, where we lost and he did play, I thought he could do a lot better. So I wouldn't say that this season so far has been great for him in the sense that it was exactly like last season. I don't think he's also the shoe in for the best keeper of the league for this year. I think some other keepers like maybe Providel will be able to get that, but he's definitely going to be our starter when he's back. I really want him to come back soon. So, like you mentioned, Shane, we need that solidity in the back line with players with chemistry, understanding. Mike is also good at distributing the ball, even though he's not had an assist while he's played for us, whereas Tata has had an assist. Keeping that in mind. As a rating, I'll go a bit lower than you. I'll go 5 out of 10. If you had kept that goal from Diego Simeone out, sorry, Diego or Giovanni Simeone? I don't remember which one it is. I don't think Diego, right? Whichever
They're both
Simeone that plays
assholes.
for Napoli now.
Yeah,
If he had kept that one out, I would have given it maybe 8 or 9 because then we would be so much closer to Napoli. But it is what it is, and yeah, I'm waiting for Magic Mike to come back. This is a special mention from our Primavera team. He has not played for the first team, but I did include him in the deck because this is the player for the future. Plays on the right wing and sometimes on the left as well. So he's can do both. Chaka Traore. Uh, Shane, have you seen any of his games while playing for the youth league? He's quite impressive.
very very promising. Very promising. Uh, this might sound like a bit of a weird theory, but I think the whole reason why we're going for someone like what's his name, Ziyech from
Yeah,
Chelsea,
yeah.
who's what is he, 31, 32, something like that. I think the reason why we're going after him is essentially because we've a lot of faith in this kid to come good in about 2 or 3 years. So that's my take on it. I mean, he plays very well. There is a small bit of a layout about him in the way that he runs at people. He's a natural gift to get past people. He's very fast. He's physical. Of course, the thing is there's a big difference in between playing someone who's probably under 20 versus professional athletes in their mid 20s. That's the big question. Can he do it? I hope he would. I've a lot of confidence in the kid. Every time I see him, I mean, he always, well, not any time, but a lot of the times I see him, he makes the right decisions. He seems to be very intelligent, very fast, very, just a good player. So he's the kind of player I would like to have on maybe, a Coppa Italia squad, because the way I look at it as well, especially, it's not like this kid would be competing with Leao, right? He's competing with Messias or Salamakers, right? So there's not a huge drop as far as I'd see it in terms of output if you put this kid on for maybe 20 minutes again in a Coppa Italia game or something like that. So hopefully this is the season where we actually see we see him on the senior team. Obviously, I can't really give him a rating because I'm not that active on the youth side as maybe some of our watchers are. But yeah, what about you? What's your opinion on this guy?
Well, if we just to judge him purely on the Primavera team, I think it's easily a 7 or 8 out of 10. Amazing performances in the youth league. So there were so many games where he carried that team and he was the sole attacking threat. Everyone was marking him. I think now he's injured, but without the Primavera would definitely be in a different position in the league, and we might not even make it in the past the youth league because there's some good academies out there. But a symbol of our project, if we do want to, take players from the Primavera and inject them into the first team, like we did with Calabria, Gijo, Mr. Donnarumma, Pobega, those guys that started off Primavera, they worked their way up. Chaka Traore is another one of those players. What's unique about Chaka Traore is that he's actually already had Serie A minutes. I think with was it Parma or which team did we get him from? Yeah, but he's still very young, and
I forgot that.
yeah, he had
Yeah,
first team minutes, Serie A minutes. Uh, and the one thing that you correctly mentioned, that our bar on the right is so low that basically any kid could have a chance at getting in. Chaka Traore does seem to be one of those clever right wingers. At this stage, I wouldn't say he's fast. I have not seen it, but it's different playing in the Primavera and the youth league than playing in the first team and the Serie A, because let's face it, yeah, when you play with the big boys, you're going up against defenders that have maybe 15 years of solid experience against big teams. So with the kids, there's probably a lot more tolerance for mistakes and trying out what works for you and what doesn't. But on the whole, great from Chakatare. You probably want to take this one on the from the get go. Uh, Ismail Benacer, what do you
yeah,
think?
he's definitely one of my favorite players at the moment. I think he everything. I'm delighted, especially about the contract talks potentially being near a closing point. So I think he's vitally important to this team. He's he doesn't make many headlines, and that's for a good reason because he does everything so well that he very rarely makes a mistake. Um, just in terms of the way that he recycles the ball, in terms of the way that he hands over the ball, he hands off it, the way he protects the ball. I mean, he's a very aggressive player. Like for a player his size, he's very good. He's a beast, really. Um, I think him and Leao would probably be my two players that I would really, and I'm not just saying it because of the contract situation, but I think those two for me have the potential to really cause a lot of damage to any club in Europe if they play against them. So that's why it's very important that he played. I know I'd said with Leao, I'm probably not going to rate anyone higher, but I think I'm going to give him a 9 because I can't other than maybe one of the first Chelsea game, which I can understand because Milan were just completely ran over by a far more physical team. Uh, and of course, a team that had more of the first team available to them. But I think nearly everything that I seen from this season, he's been perfect. He's been professional. He's been great. I can't speak highly enough about this kid. So for me, 9 out of 10. Yeah, I just he's great.
Yeah, I agree with you on the rating, and with everything that you said. Benacer, Mr. Ismail Benacer is great. Absolutely amazing for our midfield. Everyone has seen the performances that we've had when he's not been on the field. We don't ever want to see those sort of games ever again. But this is the issue that I'm having when we have such stellar players is that we don't really have a great backup or the depth when they can't play. Being that they're fatigued or maybe injured. But kudos to Benacer is that he's provided the performances when we needed it. He scored the equalizer against Atlanta, if I remember correctly, when Atlanta were on form and riding near the top of the league. I'm glad, by the way, that they're not near the top of the league anymore. So that goal really came in handy, and the engine of our midfield. So everyone has seen when Benacer is not having a good game, the whole team suffers. But when he's in his element, he's unstoppable, recovering balls, doing the distributions, running back, helping out in that CDM sort of role, at times being the third center back. That's how far back he goes, running down those attacking players. He's got it all really, and you could even argue that he would deserve maybe a 10 out of 10 rating when he does renew, because if the rumors are to be believed, he is that close. So I don't see him as being problematic. We've got bigger problems in the midfield. He's definitely a shining star. Keep Benacer at all costs, and I hope that Maldini's watching this, because we don't really have an option to get a player like Benacer. Come on, guys, you're gonna probably have to pay like 80, 90 million just to get a player with similar characteristics of Benacer. And again, other than the salary that we've given to him so far, we've invested a lot of time because uh, you know during that Gianpaolo period, those 6 months, he wasn't that great. But right after the COVID break, this guy amazing. With Cassie, he was the other half of that midfield. So all high ratings for him. Matteo Gabbia, someone that everyone was writing off last season because of. I admit, yeah, I get what they were saying, that because of what happened in Fiorentina. But what do you think, Shane? I don't think it's been the same Gabbia that we've seen last season.
So it's a dangerous. So my thing on Gabby is I think when he does things very simple and concise, he's very good. He does everything great. What I didn't like to see about Gabbia was after he got the goal in the Champions League. I think who was it against Dynamo.
Yeah,
So the
first goal.
following game, yeah, the following game after that, it was like he thought he became Baresi reborn. Like he was charging out of defence. He was nearly playing as high as Benacer in some of the plays. Uh, that was my problem with Gavia. But he's you know I think again he's young, probably a rush of blood to the head. He's obviously not the same type of caliber of player as Baresi, and nor should you think he is. But I think he's good, and he's a solid player to have for rotation means. And you never know, he might progress to the point where he becomes a starter. You just never know. Um, but I if he keeps doing things short and simple, he will be a very good, a good player that you can depend on, a la something like Benacer. In the context of he comes on, he does his job, and you're safe. If he tries, all these things of, you know, uh, fantasista football that we've seen, um, I'd be concerned. But yeah, I think again, being what he is, I, my feeling is with him is that for every one thing that he does wrong, which is not very much, but for the things he does wrong, I think for some reason, and I don't know why, it might have been like you were saying, that Fiorentina game. Was it last season?
Yeah, last season.
Yeah, I think people just kind of tend to latch onto that, and they always go back to that. So no matter if he is like 6 or 7 or 8 average or okay games where he doesn't do much wrong, people just go, "Oh God, he's made a mistake," you know. And then for some reason, they're the same ones that are also saying give CDK time, and you're kind of going,
Yeah.
okay. So is just the value of what a player is bought for? Is that how you're dictating on how much time to give someone? Because I think Gabia deserves time. But anyway, look, I'll give him a 5, just based on that. Him. Obviously getting the goal in the Champions League, that was a great step for him. But just then following it the next game by thinking he was Franco Baresi reborn, I just think probably average season based on that for me. So yeah, what about you?
This is be one of the rare times where I give a rating higher than Shane. I'm actually going to go a little bit higher than that even. I'm going to give Gabia a 7 out of 10 for this so far. I'll give you the reasons why. I don't think he's made any major mistakes. So if you want to compare our back line in terms of mistakes, I could easily point out someone that we will speak about in a bit who actually got a red card during Champions League game. So I don't think he's been our worst defender. And I also keep in mind, but this is just me being nostalgic, is that during our unbeaten run after the COVID period, Matteo Gabbia was partnered with Romagnoli, and we kept that unbeaten streak for quite a while. With him being our main centre backs. So there is definitely that defender. That those abilities as a defender, and that goal really tops it off. So to me, is that I'm looking at the improvement, and I'm judging Gabbia for coming out of from that negativity of last season and able to prove all those naysayers wrong, and say that, yeah, I'm back. This is a new season. I can do much better. I scored a goal for you, and if I'm not mistaken, I think during Juve also he might have started that game, which we won that game handsomely and without any problems. So as a reliable centre back we have in our team, great. Whether he starts, I think he has to work a lot harder to start, because we've got players like Kalulu who can also do the job. Tomori, when he's on back on top in terms of the pecking order, we can see what he can do. Tomori, Kia also, again, amazing. When he's fit, I don't know what's going on with him, but we'll speak about that in a bit. But Gabriel is in the same pool. I don't think his abilities are that much different compared to our other centre backs. So it's just a matter of him, gaining the confidence a bit better with the aerial ability defending the box, something that our other centre backs lack. Maybe Kia is good at that, and I don't mind him starting games. Be it against Champions League or against top sides. I have my trust in Gabriel.
I think him and Kier work very well together. I don't know why that pairing isn't seen more often. you know.
I think the issue is more with Kia. When it's paired with Kia, I think Kia is is the is the one that might drop the is more likely to drop the ball than Gabriel. So you need one to overcompensate for the other, and Gabriel's not the sort of player to really overcompensate for Kia. It needs to be someone like Tomori or Kalulu even. All right, so let's see the next. Ah, you'll enjoy this this player right here, Theo Hernandez, renewed. I think it was last season he renewed, or was it this season he renewed?
I think it was last
Well,
season he renewed. Yeah, he's. I can't speak highly enough about this guy.
yeah, same.
Um, I think the only I feel sorry for him in a way because like he gets overplayed, and I know he is one of the best left backs in the world, right? I can understand why we need to play him, but I think part of the problem with that as well is it's not just because he's an amazing player he's getting overplayed. It's when you look at the shocking quality of depth that we or lack of depth that we have in that position. You know who I'm talking about, but we'll talk about him later. But yeah, it just the only thing I'm a bit concerned about with Teo, and it's obviously his play is great. He does disappear sometimes from games, more often than people think, But usually, what he does when he disappears, he comes back later in the same game and does something amazing. So people just forget about it. Um, so there's that issue, but there's also I don't like Teo as a captain.
Really, why not? I think he's doing quite
I,
well as a captain. It's not like we have
he
that much of a
is.
choice anyway.
No, that's true. That's true. I think some of my issues with Teo as a captain, I think it's more down to his personal character. It's not him as a player. Him as a player, if Teo was a player who was very quiet and very reserved, like Maldini, and only spoke when he needed to speak, right? Teo, if you look at Teo the wrong way in a pitch, he falls over crying and screaming, right? So if he got that out of his game, there's nothing wrong with trying to get a foul. It's part of today's game. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you see the theatrics, though, and I'm just kind of going, this guy is the captain. You know, I think it's a small bit embarrassing if he works that out of his game because you'll still get the free anyway. You know, other than some of the grey area frees, but you'll still get a free if you're fouled, right? In today's game, mostly, right? Um, so I think if he works that out of his game, I'd be delighted, and I'd love to see him as a captain. Maybe him and Tonali for the future, if, could split it. But anyway, just going back to it. So rating, I'd probably give him an 8. The only reason I wouldn't rate him higher, just because he set such a high bar for himself last season in terms of that, that coast to coast. Was it Atalanta? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Atlanta
that
at
was
home. Yeah.
coast to coast. I mean, and when you do something like that, I know pure selfish fans like myself, but we kind of expect maybe something more special the following year. Not that we're expecting coast to coast, but maybe just a bit more in the attacking third, which we haven't really seen from him. And because he's capable of that, and because he hasn't delivered it so much so far this year, probably I'll just give him an 8 out of 10. How about you?
I'm gonna go a bit lower. So Theo is, Theo is Theo. Yeah, there's nothing much more that can be said other than that Theo is great. French starting left midfield usually. Yeah, if Deschamps sticks at 3-5-2, so he plays slightly different formation with the national team. With us as a left back, however, he's you could say the most offensive left back that I've seen in a long time, and this season has not been any different. Only the fact that the stats don't really reflect how much of a threat that he is. He's only scored 2 goals, but we know that could have scored a lot more. It's just that there might be, a little bit more. It's just become a little bit predictable about what he's expected to do. That cut into the center from the left, and where it doesn't work, it does leave our left side exposed. So this is where we've seen Tomori cover him from the whenever he goes on his runs, and if he loses the ball, Tomori would have to come back to that position and try to stop that counter attack. Uh, I don't think that there's that much wrong with Theo. He can only get better when it comes to getting the goals. Uh, you're right about the behavior on the pitch. He's captain. I believe he's captain just to represent the team. But in terms of the leadership qualities, I think Kier, Zlatan, Giroud, those guys have it more in abundance. Yeah, but uh, maybe it's a case whereby as Theo gets older, we'll see him being a little bit more smarter with his runs, maybe a little bit more clinical with the goals. Maybe he'll mellow down a bit when it comes to those spats on the field, because between him and Dumfries, I'm just afraid that Theo gets a red card for something silly. So yeah, as long as he keeps it in check. But overall, nothing much to complain about. So far, it's been great from Theo, and when the defenses start opening up a lot more towards the second half of the season, we're gonna have see a lot more goals, a lot more assists from Theo. That the player, those runs, the speed is all still there. Okay. Do you see him? You know who that is?
It is. It's sorry, it's kind
Mr.
of small for
Original,
me.
the original.
Mr. Origi. Oh, yeah. Um, trying really hard. Trying really hard. I suppose this might seem a bit harsh, because I am the same guy that's calling for time with CDK and time with Gabia and Pobega, and um,
You don't
the
want to give it
difference
to
is
some
with
7-year-old, are you?
yeah, the difference is you don't, even on a free transfer. He came from a top club. Guaranteed, he wasn't, he wasn't a starter by any means. But he came from a top club, and I would hope that a 27-year-old would be somewhat approaching their peak, right? So there shouldn't be much that they would need to do to be able to excel. Um, from what I've seen about Origi, I don't think he has the character of being a leader. I don't think he offers that on the pitch. So essentially, we just have a player in a position there that tends to disappear, which is great because he can, fill in for Diaz. But in terms of adding to the team, I don't see it yet. And look, this time next year, I could completely eat my words. Words. But I don't, I, I haven't been too happy with what I've seen so far. Did get that nice goal. Who was it against? Was it against Bologna? Remember he
Monza, I
scored
think,
that.
his only goal. Yeah,
Monza, was it?
yeah.
Monza. Got that really nice goal. Really glad for him. Really, really painfully wanted to work out for Origi, especially because being based in Kenya, I think a Kenyan player playing for. I know, even though he's showed up for Belgium, but his parents were Kenyan, so really, to highlight more Milan in Kenya, really wanted to work out for him. So I'm trying really hard. I just hope we see a bit more from him because I think the characteristics are there. Because I do think he could be a beast if he wanted to be. I just don't know if the attitude is there or not. That's the concerning thing. But for me, based on what I've seen, probably give him a 4 out of 10. How about you?
Yeah. With Origi, I actually had big expectations of him, and the reason being is that he came from a very star-studded Liverpool team, which he did play. So it wasn't completely, off the bench, and he scored big goals in really big games. So I had high expectations of him. But then when he arrived, he was injured, played a little bit, got injured again, came back, and I didn't see that much of an improvement. I don't know whether we've actually seen or found out the limit of this player, or whether again, like with CDK, is that he's not found the chemistry within the team. So then it's just a matter of time, and he'll improve. but he should be doing a lot better. So with the rating of 4 out of 10, it's fair. Maybe I could even say that he might even have been 3 out of 10, considering he came from Liverpool. Yeah. So with Liverpool, you play with those players, you got to have a certain standard. I'm not seeing those standards when he starts. And this is the what's special about Milan is that in EPL teams you would be on the bench. In AC Milan, you start games. Yeah, this is the obvious difference. You know, with Giroud, with some other players. You have to take these opportunities. And there have been so many one-on-ones where Origi was against the keeper when he's played. You have to be putting those men back on net. If you aren't doing that as a striker, then what is your role in the team? You can't be like the guy who to lay it off to an imaginary player because that anyone can do that. Anyone can be invisible. What we were expecting from him is that he uses his size, his physicality, get control of the ball, get into those one-on-ones, and be clinical. That's pretty much about it. The rest of the job is taken up by other players, so he doesn't need to do that much more. He has big shoes to fill because the way that I see how his transfer came about, I think the management were intending for him to occupy Giroud's spot as a starter, but he's not been showing it. But with the time aspect is that it's only been 15 games. Maybe towards the later part of the season, we will see the Origi that everyone remembers from those highlight reels in Liverpool. But until then, not good enough. Simply not good enough. This is Esther Frank, our kid from Belgium, I think, under 21 from Belgium, joined us
Hmm.
on a loan with option to buy. Everyone will remember his recent game. He crossed it in. I don't know whether he was looking for anyone, but he ended up deflected and considered as his own goal. How about you, Shane? Is that one goal? Should we buy him on the basis of that one goal if he doesn't play for the rest of the season? It
So
was the winning
I'll
goal.
be a bit, yeah, I'm going to be a bit biased here, because inherently I think this is a very good signing. Um, I think potentially if you give this kid 2 years, I think he will be better than Kessie,
Okay.
because he can actually do something that Kessie can't. Well, I mean, he's better than Kessie now already,
Yeah, because you
just
gotta
because
admit,
he's actually
Cassie in his
getting
first
game
season he
time.
was shit. Sorry, I don't know
Exactly.
if I can swear in the stream. I mean, he wasn't
That's
that
it.
great.
That's it. No, he wasn't great, but I think Frank's is he's very physical. But the big difference in between him and Kessie is that he can actually spot a pass. And I'm not saying this just based on the Fiorentina game, but I'm saying it based on what he's shown so far is he can read the game very well. And that was one of my issues with Kessie is that physically very good, physically great, you know, bullies people off the ball, great. I thought we would actually miss him more than we have in the middle of the park, Kessie. Because I thought, oh, we have no one physical in the middle of the park, but somehow with Tonali and Benacer, even though they're probably three-quarters the size of Kessie, I think Benes. This is why I'm such a Benacer fanboy because he's just physically he has it as well. Um, but with Franks, I think it's a again it's part of why I'm so positive about Milan going into the future. It's I mean we're like I think this kid is going to be great, you know, and I think ready-made replacement for Kessie for me, but better from what I've seen. Obviously, things can happen, but yeah, really, really good. I'm not even going to mention the Fiorentina thing because that's kind of one of those things where it was a bad pass, so it was helped in by a Fiorentina player, whatever. But outside of that, from what I've seen, I would probably give him a this is again is based on the minutes that he's played, so which hasn't been much. But what I've seen from him has given me I give him an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That 8 out of 10 definitely is for the 2 points that he got us in the last game. Without it, you could say it's a fluke or maybe like such stroke of brilliance, whatever it is. Yeah. So him being in the right position with the right cross, intentional or otherwise, the right weight on that pass led to that goal. It's amazing. And for a kid, yeah, and this is another kid because he's still very young, under 21, international. Uh, he has done no wrong so far, and this is very important when it comes to players that we bring in that are not say prospects, but really like options that we will decide whether to redeem at the end of the month, sorry, at the end of the season. But then we see that they've maybe even doubled in value, so it's a no-brainer. He's definitely one of those players that should be considered. And again, adding on to the project, uh, if he does this well with the minutes that he has, he can only do much better when he starts. And again, getting into the flow of things with the team, the chemistry, being a solid pick for that midfield option. Keep the competition up. Yeah, when you keep the competition up in the midfield, you'll be able to get the best players playing every game, regardless of who it is. I do see that from ranks, and it's just a matter of and if he really does well, he could even be a starter on the Belgium national team. So, yeah, great performances from the kid. I look forward to seeing a lot more, and especially in the Copa. It's about time where he started games. I don't think he started the game in the past 15. I don't think so. He's not even in
No, I
the
don't think so.
but
No.
yeah. So when it comes to the Copa, or maybe even in that odd game against uh, need I say Sandora maybe at the bottom of the table. Maybe those are the games where he deserves to start. Oh, time will tell. Okay. You sent me this photo. It's not so obvious who it is on the left, but everyone knows. From the Chelsea player going down on the right. Tell us about this moment and what you think about the player and how he's been.
So, we're definitely not getting the best version of Tamori, right? I don't, while it's not turning out to be a positive thing for us as Milan fans, I don't necessarily think in the bigger picture it's a negative thing. I'll tell you why. I think what seems to be a recurring theme with the players that have been bought by, let's say, the new management, right? So everything after that idiot Leonardo and, you know, who's Fasone and Mirabelli and, you know,
Yeah,
all these fools. Um, the proper quality players that we've purchased, they all have well, most of them anyway, they have a streak of where they take things very seriously and they want to, you know, build themselves up and they want to work on themselves and become great players, which is great. Tamori is a prime example of that. Same thing I'm saying about, or I said about Gabia, though, I'll say about Tamori. Tamori's at his very best when he's keeping things very short. He's passing it short. He's not doing anything hugely entertaining. He's just doing his job. And I think weirdly, I think just the 2 or 3 games before the break, we seem to be actually recovering that Tamori, which was kind of strange. I think maybe part of it could have been, he sees himself under maybe he sees himself under pressure trying to get a place in the England squad, which, I mean, to be honest, I think English football fans really need to. Sorry, obviously, people at Sport England, not English football fans, but people at Sport England should really, really be questioning Gareth Southgate's credentials. So anyone that picks Harry Maguire for anything over Tomori shouldn't be a manager. There is nothing that Harry Maguire can do better than Tomori, except fall over. And as far as I know, that's not something that's really needed, especially in international football. So Tomori's done more than enough to actually deserve a call up, let alone, I dare say, probably a starting place in that England camp. So I think based on that, the fact that England have a moron of a manager shouldn't really affect us as Milan fans, but unfortunately, I think it has with Tomori's performances because he's been trying too hard when he doesn't need to because he's already, a, a great player. And you can see that in his performances. But as I said, I'm being very generous here, and this is probably based on mostly last season for what he did, especially with Kalulu. So I'm not going to give him a terrible rating, but I'll give him a six. And I'm being generous with the six because he has been horrific sometimes this season. But I think just because I think in the last couple of games, he's kind of been coming back and he's been shown, the Tamori that we know, which is, he's a grafter. He does things very simple. He makes clutch tackles. Um, probably a penalty for, was it Fiorentina? Uh, you know, do you remember that? Was it that tackle that he did
Oh, Nicone.
on Icone? That's the one. I mean, that to me, right? It's like first when I seen that tackle, I thought, oh no, because the ball went the way of Tamori's foot, but it didn't. It basically went the way of Tamori's foot because Tamori's foot went into Ikone's foot and then actually hit the ball out.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a penalty. But like, I mean, look, it is what it is. Let's not be UVA fans
But
and start
on that
complaining.
point, yeah, and okay, maybe we go into a bit of conspiracy theories. The standard of refereeing, and it is everyone's got to admit this. The standard of refereeing between the Serie A is different than the Champions League. So that might not have been called in the league. When it comes to Champions League and against bigger teams, I don't think he would have been as lucky.
Yeah, that's true. But I think I did feel sorry for him, especially with the Chelsea game. I think he is just one of these players that if he feels he's a point to prove, he tries too hard. When there's always an argument to be said where if someone feels they have a point to prove, they probably don't. Like he didn't have a point to prove against Chelsea. He became a brilliant player when he left Chelsea. He didn't have a point to prove against to Southgate because obviously the guy must be, I don't know, he's probably headed too many footballs during his career and he's gone senile or something. So I mean, I think he's probably one of those players though that if he feels he's a point to prove, he maybe tries to force the issue too much when he doesn't need to because Tamori at his simplest is Tamori at his best. That's my thing on him.
Yeah, my take on it is that Tomora has been suspect, and I keep using that word, yeah, suspect for most of the games that he's played this season. The only games that stand out for me, or maybe the only one that stands out for me, where I thought he did amazingly well, uh, maybe two. I would give two games. Yeah, maybe two games. One was the Juve game. He scored again, clean sheet, amazing. And I think he had the goal line clearance in the last game against Fiorentina.
Yeah,
So
he did. He did. He did. Like, and that's the old Tamori. That's what I'm saying. That's why I've been very generous with my rating because I think we're getting the old Tamori back. You
yeah,
know.
slowly but surely he's coming back. I mean, he can't play. You could say subpar for the rest of his career. It's just people have the ups and downs. This is the downs for Tomori. Uh, Against Chelsea, yeah, he made a big mistake, and I do see it quite a bit. Yeah, so he's holding on to players' shirts. We see it in some of the replays. Uh, like you said, maybe is it a case whereby he's trying too hard, or maybe he's a bit fearful because everyone can see this, yeah, and it's not me speculating. Him and Tatarusanu, I don't think they get along. There was one game where I think he was shouting at Tatarusanu to pass it long, but
To be fair though,
Tatarusanu,
Tatarusanu and professional football don't get along.
yeah.
You know,
But had
like,
Tomori known that Tatarusanu was blind, so
yeah, yeah,
maybe that's the reason why.
yeah. I actually feel bad for him now because
Yeah.
I was like, you don't
Maybe we're
actually
getting something
think
for
when
Christmas or something
know,
like that. But yeah,
yeah, when you criticize a professional football player, you don't actually think, oh, they might be blind.
or maybe he's making fun of Tatarusanu, saying, "Hey, dude, are you blind?" Whereas
Yeah,
finally knowing that the guy is blind.
he's
So yeah,
probably got
maybe
like
just a
a
bit of a
harassment
compensating.
suit from HR and AC Milan for calling Tatarusanu fucking blind.
Yeah.
Is that?
But the fact that in he kept what was it, like 9 clean sheets in the second half of last season, and that wasn't too long ago. You know that this player, he can do amazing things. Him with the right partnership, with the right you could say chemistry in that back line. He's one of the wonders back there. Yeah, and I'm not going to go into the English national team because the less great players they have going with them, it means that it's an early exit. Essentially, they just cannon fodder for whoever else is within the group. So uh, for rating, I would give him. I think you give him a six. Is it?
Oh, so Tamori, I gave him a six.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll probably give
Right.
him a five. Uh,
Hmm.
the goal and that Fiorentina game really helped him. If he didn't score and if that goal for Fiorentina went in, I would have given him maybe a two or a three. I mean, one of the lowest. It's
Yeah.
it's not the same Tomori of last season, but yeah, this break came at a great time. He wasn't doing too well, and when he comes back for the remaining games, we should see the real Tomori. Davide Calabria, our actual captain, played only a few games for us. What do you think? This is his second long-term injury, yeah, in consecutive seasons. What do you think of
Yes.
Capitano
I'm
Calabria?
so Capitano. So I I th- I'll probably get crucified for saying this, and I understand why. But I think Calabria's best days are behind him, unfortunately. I think, and again, this is not a great thing to be saying about our club captain. I think that injury that he got a couple of years ago, I think it took away a large amount of his pace. I know he did get a couple like some really he had some key moments last season with a goal or two, and he was important. But I just there's something in the back of my head that tells me, for us to become a genuine Champions League contender, a competitor, I don't see Calabria in any team that is. I think it's not just his fault. I know the right side in general is poor. I just don't see it. I think you know I'm not his biggest fan. I don't he doesn't give me much in terms of defensive output. He doesn't provide solidity there. Attacking output, arguably, he does quite well, but his primary role shouldn't be to attack, right? It should be to defend, and he's not great at it. With Teo on the opposite side, we have the luxury of saying, well, okay, defensively, he's not great. He's getting better slowly, but he's not great. But the thing is going forward, he's second to none nearly worldwide. Calabria doesn't do defending or attacking great. So for me, I probably give him for what we've seen of him. I mean, he didn't, he was all right. I'd probably give him a 5 out of 10. But for me, I'd be looking to replace him, just as I'd be looking to get a right wing and another 3 or 4 great players. But I'm not his greatest fan, so just based on that, I think he's been okay. So probably a 4 out of 10 for me. Yeah, sorry to be negative.
Yeah, I agree with you. In my opinion, Calabria, the real Calabria, has not returned since the injury last season. So after he had the injury, he came back. He's been a different player. I don't know whether he's afraid of the injury recurring or
I think our connectivity is going.
is it? Let me check that.
Wait, it's a bit better.
Can you hear me? Is it okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah,
Okay, it's
that's
good.
better. I think it was just it was flappy for a bit. Yeah,
Okay, okay. Is it
I'm
me?
kind of stuck there like the Pope. Oh wait, no, I changed now. Okay, cool.
Okay, you're okay.
Sorry.
It's good. Yeah,
Yeah, good,
yeah.
good.
So we never really got the old Calabria back. The Calabria that scored against Atlanta and two other games. Oh, I think we might have lost Shane. Or is it me? You're okay? Yeah, but I think we lost you on the stream. I can hear you. One moment, yeah. Sorry, guys. Okay, he's back. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I would agree with you. I think Calabria's time has come because every player in that position is getting better. Kalulu, who's been playing right back, is getting better, and we speak about him in a little bit. but there's other players that are contenders for that right side. If Des really shows why he he ended up in Barcelona in the first place, I think Calabria's days are numbered. The issue that we have is that he's captain, so we can't really move him on in a traditional sense. It has to be a way of, do you mind going? Which I don't think is happening because he's Italian, he's a Primavera product, so he ticks a lot of those boxes already. I guess all of us fans are just hoping that he becomes the old Calabria that was great, offensively and defensively also quite solid. But until then, I'm gonna give him a 4 out of 10. It's not good enough. Definitely not good enough. Oh, this is Gabia. Oh, I think we've done him. Okay, we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, too much Gabia for one.
Okay, for this game as well, Alexis Salmakers. Come on, you can't be hating this guy. He scored two Champions League goals. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, the thing is I feel sorry for him in a way because we play him in right wing. It's not his position. It's the, I'm trying to be positive. So no, so I think we don't play him in his correct position because I think he was bought as a right wing back, and next thing someone came up with the bright idea that he could work as a right winger because apparently right wingers don't exist in the world, so we can't buy them. So yeah, I kind of feel for him just because I do have a feeling that he's playing out of position. But that being said, I think he's very much like a Calabria to me. I think he's reached his ceiling, and I think he's young. So I think at this point, I think he should be sold, and I think we should that should be reinvested into a functioning right winger. Um, uh, that being said, though, I mean, as you said, two UEFA Champions League goals, but that fact alone would probably disagree with me. So what the hell do I know, right? Um,
At one
uh,
point, top scorer or joint top scorer, I think, with Lewandowski and who was it?
yeah, yeah,
Champions League.
yeah.
Granted,
Like,
only two
and
games in.
but when you look at his overall play, um, I don't understand how he's been given. I don't understand how he's been given so much game time. The only thing that explains it to me is a crippling lack of options on the right wing. If we had a functioning right wing, I don't even see Salamaker starting in front of Messias. And I'm not anti Messias. I feel that Messias as a player is limited. I think he's good for depth, but Salamakers for me, Champions League goals or not, I'll probably give him a 5 out of 10. But for me, he's not a future. He's not a player that we could build anything around. I think he should be sold, and I think we need to get in someone better. But so far this season, 5 out of 10. How about you?
I'm gonna go a bit better, 6 out of 10. Yeah, because the second time I rate someone higher than you, uh, and the reason why I do that is that I think there is an improvement to the player. So he's still young, so there is that ceiling that we don't know really where it's at. Many people have written him off, and yeah, and some would agree with you that he should be sold. But I'm waiting to see how far this kid can go. He's not been anything impressive so far. Things have become better, but you never know. Yeah, he could be a good backup option for our main right winger, whoever it is that is going to come. I don't think that's Messias. I think it should be Salmakers because of the fact that he is younger, and the more that time you spend with the team, it should be the better that you're at. Didn't happen with Samu Castillejo though, so I don't know whether that's rubbing off on him. But I'm willing to give him a little bit more time, a little bit more. He's already had quite a bit.
Yeah, just fix the right wing, Cardinale. Come on, just fix it.
Okay, so this is by no means the last picture because I think we've got a few other players to go. But what do you think
Hmm.
of Chloe this season? Yeah, he's not on the pitch. You could say he's on the field, but he's not really on the pitch.
So I start by saying we really need someone that understands set pieces for our club, just to be able to effectively use them. Like in terms of corner kicks, especially, we're hideous in. And I think that direction should come from Pioli to kind of recognize, look, guys, all right, we suck at free kicks. If I can't come up with something for myself, I assume that there's someone that they could hire that would, you know, use data-driven analytics to basically say, okay, this is how we can deliver effective set pieces. So I think Pioli's kind of sucked a bit there, but and I'm trying to separate this season from last season, because last season, I mean, I still think we were far ahead of where even Elliot expected us to be. So Pioli deserves all the credit for that. Um, as a man manager, I think he reminds me of Ancelotti. The players love him. He's got a great vibe to him. Tactically, I think sometimes he can be found wanting. Like, we don't really have an answer. If we come up against a physical pressing team, we have no answer. If we come against a team that if we come against a team that sits 11 players back in their half, we have no answer. Even though we have the quality to unlock that, we have no answer. So I still think, for me, tactically, he's lacking a bit. I'm not saying it in a way that, oh, he should be removed. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that everyone has their ceiling. I'd hate for it, to be. I'd hate for this to be Pioli's ceiling. I don't think it is. I think he can probably, come up with a couple more surprises and tweak things as he needs to. But there's been a couple of times this season where we've seen some scary things. Like, I mean, the one that stands out for me is, Lazetic being bought on against Cremonese. Maybe, as much as I like Krunic, maybe an over reliance on Krunic. Some questionable, so it's just some very questionable substitutions that, for some reason, they worked last year. This year they're not working. So
The magic is
I
wearing
don't know.
off.
It is. It is. I think, probably, considering that he had majorly the same players that he had last year, and he should understand the players that he has with a couple of extra reinforcements. I would argue that he's probably done a small bit worse. So I'll give him a 5.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, uh, I would. It's a bit tough between me and Pioli because, admittedly, for those who know me, is that I've been actually Pioli out last season, so I might be a little bit inclined to run him down a little bit. But then again, is that uh, if we compare to where we're at this stage of the season, and if you had said it to anyone, yeah, okay, before the World Cup break, we would be in second place. Anyone wouldn't mind taking that, yeah, taking that bet and saying that, okay, I know if it guarantees me second place, then purely in. But how far are we from Napoli? With a good 8 points ahead of us. By the way, I just want to give a shout out to Fabio, who's actually watching. He's in the chat. I'm looking at here.
No,
Yeah.
Fabio, you're a legend.
Yeah. So thanks, Fabio, for tuning in. So for the
Thanks,
case
dude.
of Pioli, I would have actually expected him to do better. So last season was great. We won the Scudetto, but this is what I expect, and we always have to keep raising the bar on these guys. So if we won last season by what 85 points, we should be able to do better this season because largely it's the same team, and it should have been an upgrade during the summer. But seeing as how we're at, it's going to be a little bit more challenging because other teams have upgraded as well. So I don't want him gone, but yeah, you're right. There have been mistakes made in the past. When we played against Cremonese, was it when we deployed the 3-4-3? Not the right game. I understood why he did it because it was a lower ranked side, but you try those things in preseason. And the players coming in late, like CDK, he didn't even have a preseason with us. Thrown in the firing line, expected to score the goals. Now we have to give him time. The performances that we're getting on the field are not solely because of his of Pioli's mistakes. Granted, some of it maybe there was a late of substitutions and maybe playing Krunic a little too many times, but he needs to do better. Yeah, so there's still time for him to redeem himself. We can still get a second star, but it's going to be tough. All right. So ah, my favorite player. I think maybe your favorite player as well, Shane. What do you think of $1 billion man, the $1 billion man?
Yeah. So the thing is with Krunic, I think he gets a lot of flack because a lot of people are very impatient and they automatically think because they play FIFA on the PlayStation that every football team has 25, uh, you know, world class players when that is never the case. When Milan have won Champions Leagues, there is not 25 world class players. There's always going to be players such as he's getting his red fruit in the sun. All right, sorry, Fabio. Uh, no, but like I think with with Krunic, it just tends to be. I think he's overplayed too much. There's too heavy a reliance on him from Pioli for me. Uh, when he plays in his position in the center of the park, I think he does he does okay. He's not too flashy. He does some good things, but I think it's gone from him being a dependable central midfielder to a undependable cam, undependable right winger, an undependable right midfielder for some reason in some games, and he's being played out of position. I admire his efforts because
He's playing out
that
of
takes.
position, or he has no position. He's everything.
No, no, he does have a position because if you remember towards bits of last year, he did play in the centre midfield and he was good. He was good. He was dependable. I mean, he didn't do anything flashy, but that's not his job to do anything flashy. His job is to be functional, right? So I think he was good. But the thing is it's a purely masterstroke of trying to put him on right wing, put him on cam, and I'm kind of thinking Pioli, would you not even just kind of say like, oh, hold on, guys, I actually think we need a right winger here, or I don't think my options at cam are working. But it doesn't seem to. He just seems to say, "Oh, I'll just use Krunic in any position I can fill," and that's not Krunic's job. He plays his one position quite well. He's never going to win a Ballon d'Or uh,
Yet,
this year, but he'll. I think he's definitely has value as a utility player, and he definitely has far more value as a utility centre midfielder, not as a cam or as a right wing, or I don't know where the hell Pioli wants to play him next. I assume as number 9. You know, but for me, he got a goal in the Champions League, right? I mean, he hit the bar against who were we playing? He hit the
Spezia, I think.
bar.
Yeah, they hit the
Spezia,
bar.
was it? I mean,
Like
he does
something like
have
that. Yeah.
his moments. So I guess my thing is about him is that like just a lot of people can't really be, you can't really be negative on a player that's getting played. One, he's getting overplayed for what he is, but he's getting played out of position as well. And I feel bad for him. But for me, I'll give him a 6 uh, because I'm not deliberately, because I'm a Krunic fanboy, I am not counting the games that he played out of position. There we
Well,
go.
yeah. My
And
my
you'll
take
give him
on
like a 2 now, and fuck you in advance for giving him a 2, but still.
it. Well, I'll give him a 0 actually, just to be fair. But this is coming from my own personal bias. Uh, well, for the case of Krunic, not entirely the player's fault. I think there's a lot of lazy thinking from, I don't know if it's purely or from his assistants, to say that, oh, we should try Krunic at this position and that. We have players dedicated for those positions, in my opinion, and players who can do a lot better in those positions. But for the lack of a better option, or maybe just assuming too highly of Krunic. He's been played a lot more than what I think he should have been on a lot more times than what he should have been allowed to. I really don't know the reason why. Pioli has come out in a press conference said that he's he's valued for his intelligence. I don't know whether Pioli had a few many too many drinks before he had that press conference, but I just don't see it. Krunic is not a symbol of the project we want to have in Milan. He is not young, nor is he talented. He's just enough, if I can use that word. He's just enough. If you want to put him as cam, he's enough for that position. If you put him right wing, maybe enough. Double pivot, maybe. Yeah, so he's tried a little bit of everything, even including left wing. Maybe the only position that he hasn't done is being a goalkeeper. That could be an idea for Pioli the next couple of games. But I can't think of why we should have this sort of utility player when there's so many better utility players out there if we really need one. And we have, in my opinion, players with a higher ceiling or potential than Krunic. Because each game that Krunic plays is a game that Adley can't play. It's a game that I don't know, Salmakers can't play, maybe because injured or whatever. It's a game like Rebic, who has scored more goals than Krunic can play. I mean, say what you want about these players, but I think we have better options than Rade Krunic. So it's a case whereby you're using like the easiest plaster like you can find maybe on your table or in your pocket, rather than going to the effort of looking for a much better solution. So yeah, for a rating, I'll give him a two or a one, whatever it is. I wouldn't mind if Cornish leaves the club in January, other than the fact that we won't get
10
the
out of 10. Go on, Husney. Go on. You know you want to. Go on.
other than the
No,
fact
no.
that we won't win the Champions League if he's not in the club, and maybe Pioli would
That's it.
resign. All right. Oh, we haven't spoken about him. Number eight, our boyhood fan, now playing with the club.
Mm,
Glad that he's okay from his big fall yesterday.
concussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Whatever the hell
what are
that
your thoughts
was.
about Sandro Tonali?
Yeah, it's hard not to like him. He seems like a very, good likable guy. The fans really enjoy him. I think he's good. He's solid. He's what I want to see more from Tonali though, because with Benacer, we know what we have. We have a guy who's good at getting the ball, out muscling players, recycling the ball very fast. I think that puts the onus on Tonali then to kind of be the guy that gets more goals. I think he should be more of a threat. I think slowly we are seeing that though. I think he's getting more clinical as the seasons go on. So you know it's not like I'm complaining about his growth. But I would really like to see more goals from him, especially when you know that he has it in the locker, to score, outside the box. He can do it quite effectively. So, but based on that, he's been very sturdy. I'll give him a 7. I think he's just been, he's been where he's been that kind of, again, the perfect companion to Benacer. And I think their next few years for us are going to be amazing, because I think they'll both grow into the positions that they need. I think Tonali going forward a bit more will be great. Yeah, really, really excited for his future. I think for me, a 7 so far this season. I can't really remember him doing a lot wrong, but I can't remember him getting a lot of goals either. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for me.
One of the observations that I have for Tonali is that the more that he plays with Benacer, I am starting to see like they're rubbing off on each other quite a bit. So it's up to a point in my eyes. Yeah, they're becoming quite similar players. So Tonali also does the ball recovery quite a bit, the diagonal crosses. He can score goals. Maybe the only other thing that Tonali does, because he's slightly more than Benacer, but even Benacer does it. Tonali takes the free kicks and the corners. So I see this as a positive, but then again, is that if you play the same, then do the opponents have figure you out after a while, which is the risk that we have, just by doing the same thing all the time. But I have nothing bad to say about Tonali. He's really ran his legs off. He's the undoubtable starter in our midfield. He complements Benacer very well. He can score the goals. He can provide the assists, like I think it was against Spezia, right? The winning goal. He did the diagonal cross to Giroud for, you could say, argue the tap in. So yeah, high rating. I think give him 8. I would agree with that. Yeah, 8. Sarut Nali being the boyhood fan selling those jerseys, he's doing his job in so many ways. Okay.
Agreed.
Ah, we made fun of this guy in the group chat quite a while. Sergino Dest from Barcelona on loan, one of the highest paid players. But again, we're not paying. I don't think we're paying his salary. But if he does join on the same salary, he'll be one of our best paid players. Well, as being not being a starter. What are your thoughts on Dest, or as McDest as we call him a little bit now?
Yeah, I just I can't. There's something in the back of my head where you know if we look at the left back position, right? Seo isn't known for his defending.
Hmm.
Going forward, he's unstoppable. The thing is, though, Theo has more physicality. He's just built, he's better built than Dest is. However, I can understand why Maldini went for Dest. Just based, I don't see him as a right back. I see him more as a well, I see him. I think he'd be better in the right wing position, essentially, right? I think he's very good. He'd be very good there. I think he's slowly starting to settle in now. Here's the question though: is Barcelona don't want him at the end of his loan? They've already basically said that. Does that then mean that Milan are gonna start offering crazy wages for someone who, even if he has a adequate season, he's still not going to be worth the wages. He's not going to be worth Benacer's wages. So, you know, can I see him taking a pay cut to stay here? You know, that's the question. But I suppose those are next year's problems. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it works out for him. I think he there is something there. There is a player in there. The more I watch him, the more I see it. Like again, defensively, he's not there. But there's an argument to be made, that in today's game, defending doesn't really matter as much, you know, as it would have done in, let's say, Maldini's day, or even Cafu's day, or Baresi's day. The defense is kind of secondary. So based on that, I really hope it works out for him. I can't really give him a positive rating just because he hasn't really played very much. And the first few games he did play, he kind of disappeared. So just based on him kind of appearing in the last game and doing quite well, I'll give him a 3 out of 10. So, but I hope if if he keeps showing an increase in potential like he has done over the last couple of games, sorry, not increase in potential, but if he shows a bit more confidence like he has done, I mean, he could be great, and I really hope it works out for him. So, but a 3 out of 10 for me for now. So, how about for you?
It's gonna be lower for me because this kid, we have to buy him, and this is why there's a lot more pressure on him to perform because we hold that option. And him coming from Barcelona, and say what you want about Barcelona, but the reason why they offer the wages to such players is because they think that these players are great. They're willing just to pay for them. Uh, so I've not seen it so far. He is not really taken the steady place of Kalulu. You're right. I see what he's trying to do. Yeah, he's trying to be bit more aggressive, a bit more offensive, trying to be that right midfield or even right winger potential. But at this stage of the game, is time is running out for him. We're already 15 games in, but he cannot find a starting spot. Whereas Kalulu has played almost every game. This is a big worry, and if he really wants to prove his worth, he's going to have to do a lot more than what he's doing. And it's harsh what I'm going to say, but I, I still blame him for Napoli. Had he not tripped Kavicha, we would have drawn that game and maybe even won it. I know there's a lot of ifs and buts and all that, and Napoli wouldn't be so far away. We would have broken Napoli's so-called aura of invincibility. So big games, you need big things, and Des has not really shown it. But if we did, and I wouldn't be too harsh on management if they did exercise the option. It's just going to take a lot of work, and the main currency of the club, time, for this player to become great.
Hmm. That's a fair estimation, I think.
Yeah. Ah, this is Simon Kier. He's back from injury. Our used to be our pillar of defense before he got injured. So if Kier was fully fit, and the old Kier that we know and performing well, I don't think Kalulu would have got a lot of game time. But he's been gone for a while. That season-ending injury took a toll on his standing in the club. Not in terms of his leadership and everything. He's still got that, but in terms of his game time and how reliable he is. What are your feelings about Simon Kjær? Is he really back, or are we going to give what, a 33-year-old player? Are we going to give him time as well?
Yeah, so I don't know I can't remember what his contract situation is. Is it another 2 years left, or is it? I don't know. But
Yeah, I think he's got another 2 years. Is it?
yeah, I think you know he doesn't look like the same player. And I think it's strange in a way because he was never the fastest player anyway. He was always more physical, but he seems to have just lost something. And it's really hard to kind of ascertain like what he's lost. Um, but that being said, maybe it just could be a situation where he just needs to get a couple more games under his belt, and then all of a sudden, the light switches back on, and we're back to the races. Judging by the Milan transfer, uh, judging by the way that Milan handled their transfers, I think he's going to get that for the rest of the season. We're not going to be bringing in a centre back that can cover up for him. Not when there's that many. Not when there's more critical positions that we need to fill. So um, that being said, like I seen a statistic thrown around that like, oh, we've kept a lot of clean sheets when Kier has been playing. That's fine, but 90% of statistics are bull. They're shit, right? So I don't think it's necessarily because Kier has been on. I think it's been more the quality of opposition we were playing against for the most part. So I I would hope to see something positive when we come back in January. If we don't, arguably, if we're going into the summer and we actually have money to spend, and we decide, okay, let's fill the centre back position, it doesn't look good for Kier at that point. So, based on what I've seen, though, he's been okay. He hasn't been outstanding. I can't really remember a lot that he's done right, or sorry, a lot that he's done wrong, but he was caught for pace in a couple of games. And this is why it's very surprising because he just doesn't seem very sharp. He doesn't seem there. He doesn't seem as switched on as he did last season.
Do you
Um,
think it's because he's a bit concerned that he doesn't want to? I mean, this is a theory that's thrown around not just for Kier but other players. They're not
mm,
putting in their all because they want to go to the World Cup, and
I
he
don't think so. I don't think so. Not with Kier, because Kier strikes me as a professional. He strikes me as someone that's very like Giroud and very, very professional. In other words, they have their day job, which is playing for Milan, and they also have their side hustle, which is playing for their country, right? I don't think I don't think so. I think it's more just there seems to be a lack of sharpness there. I don't think it's not because he doesn't want it to be. He could just be, maybe it's his age. Maybe he takes a bit longer to recover, to recover that intensity that we need. We'll probably see come March or April, if it is just him lacking lacking intensity, right? But if we're still at the situation where, I would love to be still in the situation where we're playing Champions League football come March or April. Um, then Yeah, it's hard to say, but I don't really think he should be kept at the club. Because I just think it was probably unfortunate, and I think it was just the injury that kind of finished him off. But that being said, I'd probably give him a 4 out of 10. Don't want to be too hard on him because he has, he still has some good moments. But I'd be very very concerned about. Yeah, it just he seems to he always seemed to make up for a lack of pace with good game intelligence, like just being in the right place at the right time. But he seems to have lost that in the last couple of months, and it's kind of hard to point out to why. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, nothing stellar or spectacular from Gear, but then again, I think for a centre back position, we know what he can do, and maybe I'm just giving him a. I'm trying to be considerate because he came back from quite a long injury, and when it ends your season, it could also potentially end your career. So I'm giving him a few bonus points because of that. So I'm gonna rate him a 5 out of 10. I've not seen any major mistakes. Let's face it, yeah. So Tomori has made bigger blunders than Kia, given even though Kia has more limited moments or times. But we'll see, yeah. So we just have to wait for Kia to really regain those minutes, and then we rejudge that is he really back and whether he can still contribute to the team. I think he still can, but it's just that coming back from long injury, not getting as much game time, more competition for places because even Gabia's playing better. It's not going to be easy for him, but I would still keep him around. No complaints from me, even if we kept Kia around, especially considering the leadership as well. Maybe he's the right.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, especially someone his age as well. I do think it provides a lot of, especially with the likes of Gabia. It does he does provide a someone to look up to in the defensive role. So yeah, I agree.
Yep. Mr. Pierre Kalulu. Uh, Pierino, I
Mm.
think they call him in Milanello. What are your views? I mean,
So
I assume
so
positive.
before I answer this, what I just want to do is I'm going to look at transfer market. I want to see. So this kid is now worth, as per transfer market, he is now worth 35 million. Imagine that from 500,000. But yeah, no, he's been okay. I I thought he would have been a bit better in the right back position, to be honest. I still, to be honest, even with his faults, I think because of his age and because he still has a lot to do and a lot to learn, but I still think he's better in the right back position than Calabria in terms of future growth. So maybe that could be an option going forward. Because when he does, go forward, like he doesn't tend to do much wrong. I'd like to see him in the right back position. Can't really. He just him and Tomori haven't been on fire. Like the chemistry hasn't been there, and I think it's kind of coincided very much so with Tatarusanu being in goal. So because maybe they're too busy trying to find these glasses while they're you know. But he's yeah, so he hasn't done much wrong. I seen a bit of a bad stat, which is there was a website I was looking at, and they rated him like fairly low in terms of his match performance. But I don't think he's been that bad. He hasn't been stellar, and he has made a couple of mistakes. But I think I'd probably put him on the same line as kind of maybe Tamori. I just think maybe he felt a bit of stress. Maybe that he wanted to try and get into the French squad for the World Cup. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I'd probably give him a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
He's kind of in middle of the road, and fully expecting that if we do this in 3 or 4 years' time, it's going to be consistent 7 or 8 out of 10. He's that type of player for me.
Yeah, I would give him a slightly higher 6 out of 10, and I'm just being a little kind to him because if you think about it, and you mentioned that he came from Lyon, I think the Lyon youth squad. This is his third season in the first team. So this is like saying that you took Lazetic out of Primavera and you gave him like 3 seasons straight. And how many of those seasons you think he's been great? I think Kalulu has been quite consistent, and this is why his
Mm,
rating is, in my opinion, higher than Tomori. And yes, he's made mistakes, but then you can expect that every defender makes mistakes at some point of time. He's not made significant blunders, and he's also being a lot more flexible in the sense that he can be used as right back and also a centre back, whereas Tomori is only one position. So there's a lot more value to the kid than some of the centre backs that we have. That versatility helps in his score, and either position he's not done too bad. He is better than Calabria as well. So yeah, still positive overall for Kalulu. If we had kept more clean sheets, then it would have been easily 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. But
mm,
still the
true,
rest of the season to play for.
true.
Junior Messias, as Mr. as our friends like to call him, Mr. DHL or Mr. Delivery
I
Man.
know. No,
A
I
little
think
bit
that's a
harsh
bit
in my
harsh.
opinion, but okay, but
Yeah, I think that's a bit harsh because usually the way I'd look at that is fine. If someone was, one makes no difference to me what someone's job is or was.
as long
But
as honest
the
living,
key
yeah.
to well, it's honest living. But the key thing as well is that look at what he is now. He's playing Champions League football. So I would say to the
And
person that's
scored.
saying, "Oh," and he scored. So I would say, right, to the person that's saying, "Oh, Mister DHL driver," I would say, right, tag off and go and play a Champions League game. Let's see how that works out for you. So no, he's been I put him in the same bracket as Kruničius Jr. Right. I think he's probably a hangover from the days of us being very frugal with our spending. He's never going to be a world beater. He still does come up, and he gives me something more in the right wing position than Salamakers does. So based on that, I think I mean, and he's come up, and there was points where he got 2 goals in 2 games. So I mean, he is, he's chipping in with the goals. Again, possibly limited. He's at his ceiling. The argument could be made as well. Well, should we not sell him over Salamakers? I don't really see Salamakers reaching what we need in the right wing ever. And I think Messias has reached it, but I do think he still gives us more than Salamakers does. So based on that, I'm actually going to give him. I'm actually going to give him a 6
Yeah.
because there has been times where even I think it was at the Cremonese game. He was one of the most dangerous players on the pitch.
Yeah, true. Game
He
where
was
everyone played
trying
poorly,
like
and he was, you could say, the only decent spot. I
mm,
wouldn't say bright spot. I mean, he didn't score.
yeah, but he was trying,
Yeah,
and
he
he
was.
and he was he looked the most dangerous. So for me, I think it's been a positive season so far. Again, he's never going to be a world beater, and we're never going to win a Champions League with Messias in the right wing. But I think for this season, yeah, he's played okay, no complaints.
Yeah, I think he's a decent player. Nothing too spectacular about him. Uh, you're right in terms of the comparisons to Krunic. Just that he's fixed in the right wing position. He has scored. He scored in the league. He scored against Torino, even though he lost that game 2-1. Some might argue that goal was a foul because even I thought so because he seemed to push the defender before he did that long shot goal into the long shot from the right hand side. In the Champions League, even though we won that game, I think he scored the last goal against Dynamo Zagreb. Everyone remembers to this day the Atletico sole goal that easily paid off his transfer fee. Uh, he came from a team of low expectations. They're almost like older version of a Yassin Adli purchase. So Crotone was relegated. We got him on loan with option. We redeemed him, and now he's in the rhythm. So he's used to the league, used to the team, and he's essentially just doing his job. Nothing too amazing about it. You wouldn't expect him to score a hat trick. Clutch goal would also be maybe out of the question. But you never know. Yeah, he's not terrible that there's you shouldn't expect anything, but he's not amazing as well that you should expect him to turn games around. But yeah, 6 out of 10 is fair. And Stevie Wonder. I mean,
It's
what are your thoughts on Stevie Wonder? I never knew Stevie Wonder was playing for AC Milan and and starting in our games, but apparently he was.
yeah, I kind of feel bad now because I was ripping on a guy who, he's like he's playing, he's like that. It's an important position, and he had to have eye surgery. Like, do you know? It's been a learning, humbling experience for me. But
Only God
no,
knows how he must have, how it felt like to be in his shoes in the game, thinking like, "Damn, I can't see."
this is and
Smash the white thing.
this is
Smash the white thing.
that's an important thing, and I think again, I know I said it a bit earlier, but it's like it just shows you, I think Milan have a bit of a sadistic streak, It's kind of like, yeah, let's get a goalie who's kind of, weirdly short and far-sighted. Uh, you know, Next one we'll get a right winger that, has one leg, you know.
Well, it's like
Um,
those things that you say, like on the school playground, saying that, oh, I could beat you with a blind goalkeeper. Like those sort of threats that you'd make to other kids on the field. You never know
yeah,
they would apply it when in the big league as well.
yeah, yeah. And imagine, remember, that was a blind goalkeeper that saved the Inter penalty last season.
I don't think he had the problem. Maybe, yeah, you never know. But I don't think
Hmm.
he had a vision impairment since then.
No, no, it's well, something going on there, but yeah, he's just a player I can't get excited about. I struggle. So uh, I would argue. So rather than having a Morante and a Tatarusanu, surely if we get, was it Jungdal? Do you know
Yeah,
that the kid? Um, Surely they would make up for lack of experience with more agility in the goalkeeper role. You know, what's the greatest thing that's going to happen with Tatarusanu is he retires. He might retire in 3 years' time. It's like, great, okay, you know, he's he's way past his peak. Even when he peaked, he wasn't a standout player. So,
has he ever picked? That's my question.
and ironically, he probably peaked that very game where he saved the Inter penalty. That was his moment. That
No,
he
I mean, to
peaked.
be fair, he's had some quite decent saves. Some would argue that they were really good saves.
I like, okay, so okay, but like he got Champions League, was it goalie of the week, right? The last game.
Oh, he did. I don't know that.
I'm sure he did. Like, if I believe so. And the thing is that every shot was right at him.
Positioning.
It's not even positioning. It's literally just every shot was right at him. Like, he could have been 2 foot away from the ball, and the ball came straight at him. Like, it wasn't even. I don't think so. But again, obviously, I don't, and I suppose I am being a bit harsh because even some of the way an awful lot of fans were kind of saying, well, look, this is a situation where if Mike was in goal, he would have saved that. And there's been very, very rare have I seen goals this season that I would have said, oh, Mike would have saved that.
Yeah.
You know, I just haven't seen it. So to be honest, maybe I'm being harsh on Tatarusanu, or Tirabasu, I guess. But
Don't forget his
yeah,
assist. He assisted Liao, I think. Yeah, in that goal. Was it Liao?
yeah,
Yeah.
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 He did. But like, it's kind of like a broken clock is right twice a day. It's like, how many times do you see him trying to pass the ball to Teo, who's just near the midfield line, and next thing then it goes out into the crowd.
No, I
It's like
remember
he's
against Torino. I don't know if you remember this. Yeah, he tried to
yeah,
pass to Diaz twice.
yeah,
Diaz, I'm sorry, you shouldn't. I know you can, but you shouldn't really pass to Diaz because it's easy to
Yeah,
dispossess Diaz. He
that's it. He's
doesn't have the build for
yeah,
it. So it happened
that's it,
twice,
dude. Yeah,
and Torino countered and scored.
yeah,
So
that's it. So technically, Tatarusanu, who's got more than one assist.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go.
See, no, but yeah, no, dude. I like. Do you know what? I think just because I kind of feel bad for ripping on him, and he wasn't 100. Didn't have 50-50 vision or whatever the hell they call it. I'll give him a six, and that hurts my soul to say that about Tatarusanu, but I'll give him a six.
I think anyone watching this, can anyone of you do a fact check whether really he has like something wrong with his eyes, or is it like some news that's planted on the web to get
That's
get
it. Yeah.
sympathy for him?
Oh, he had something wrong with his eyes. Please buy him for 5 million.
He's looking for a contract extension, and he doesn't want to be blamed for anything.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
probably got like who's Leao's old manager, Rafa Mendes or whatever the hell his name
Jorge
is. Yeah,
Mendes.
he's
Yeah.
probably got him. Or yeah, that guy. Yeah, Jorge Mendes. Yeah, probably got him for a fucking agent.
Well, my view of Tatarusanu is that he's the definition of a good enough keeper, and this is the sort of keeper that I think a lot of clubs wouldn't mind having, saying that, they're not going to be like clamoring or creating a problem in the dressing room for game time, but
Hmm.
when they are called to action, you wouldn't expect a big time blunder. So I mean, I've
True,
had those
true.
blunders before. If I remember from 2 seasons ago,
Hmm.
was it last season? Early last season against sorry, 2 seasons ago, I think now, against Roma. So he had that blunder. But since then, I think a lot more good
At
performance
34
recorded
years old.
than disasters. Yeah.
Yeah,
Back when he could see. So and eyes make a difference,
hmm.
especially when you're a keeper.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, we're living in an age where the starting goalkeeper for the Italian champions couldn't see. So make it that what you will.
All right, and this I don't know if this is the last one, but I think maybe the last one or the second last.
Hmm.
Mr. Malik Chow, our young standout joiner, and we purchased him, so he's our player even until next season. Uh,
Hmm.
what can you say about the kid? Yeah,
Yeah, good. I mean, I can definitely see the reason behind the purchase because he's very physical. Like he gives you something. Let's say he gives you something in the back line that the likes of Gabbia don't. He gives you something that maybe Kier would have done a couple of seasons ago. Someone that'll bully people off the ball. And I like that. So yeah, he's built like a unit. He's got a lot of potential.
don't forget
He's
the
a
aerial threat. Yeah, he's good in the air. He can jump. He
good
can
in
head
the air
balls.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we get someone who can actually tell us how to take set pieces, we might be able to get a couple of headers. But yeah, no, he's good, man. I like him. I think he's definitely one for the future. There's definitely good potential there. Uh, I could see him becoming clutch far more quickly than people realize, to be honest. So yeah, I've had a lot of hope for this kid. I hope it works out for him. What I've seen of him, this is kind of hard to say because I haven't really seen him much. So I'll just give him a random. I'll give him a 5 out of 10. Right, just for the bits that we have seen, he's done quite well. He's done some things badly, but again, he's a kid, and he kind of makes up for lack of experience with a lot of talent and attitude. So yeah, I give him a 5 out of 10. How about you?
I'd actually give him 7 out of 10, and for one main reason is that I think he's earning Pioli's trust. So he's had two starts, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, two starts in games, even though against lower ranked sides, he has not been terrible in those games. He made one mistake, if I remember, but aerially, in the box, if you're having the set piece, he can be one of those players. Like what Gabriel did in the Champions League. He can try and head that into the ball, or if we're defending the set piece, he's tall enough to clear it. Also, do you remember? I think it was against Spezia, sorry, against Monza, I think. Yeah, so he had those clearances. Again, good performances. Yeah, given the few minutes that he's had on the field. But uh, all I can say at this stage is that he is the poor alternative, the poor man's alternative to Sven Botman. I know during the summer transfer window we were hot for Botman, almost a confirmed done deal. A lot of rumors since.
Sorry, hot for Botman should become some sort of get it trending on Twitter. You know,
Yeah, but it didn't work out, and Botman is doing well in Newcastle. They're in Champions League spots for now. Uh, but the profile, you can see that what the management they were after. Yeah, they were after a tall, physical centre back. Doesn't have to be too quick because we have quick centre backs already. Uh, in the air has to do a good job. So he fits that profile, and now I can really see why we bought him as opposed to our standard loan with option. Very good for management, and our yeah higher rating for me. Some like to call this guy Bambi on ice. Not the most. At one point he was all the rage. Yeah? Second half of the season player, big game player. He has enough, more than enough goals for a highlight reel. Ante Rebic. So what can you say about him? Where has the story taken a turn for the worse for Ante Rebic, in your opinion?
so I don't. To be honest, I don't really think it has gone south. I think people are just being very negative. I think his best position was always left wing. Anytime we've seen him this season, it hasn't been in left wing, or if it has, it's been very sparingly. We've seen him used on right wing, which is useless. But that's not his fault. He's kind of a left-footed player that's playing right wing. And he's as bad as Suso, which is, I mean, it is what it is. But like, I think left wing is definitely his position. Maybe yeah, sort of a shadow striker, but I don't think it's been as bad. Um, I just think it's been more. We're seeing less of him, and then when we do see him, he's being played out of position more so. So, I mean, what do people expect? I quite like him. I think he's that kind of shadow psychopath that you need at a club. You know, like yeah, I think he's very hardcore. Um, so the fact that he's been played out of position, I'm not going to rate him negatively. Uh, I'll probably give him a 5 out of 10. And let's be honest, right? I think like was it first game of the season, Udinese,
Yeah, 2 goals.
2 goals. So I mean, and if I recall properly, he wasn't being played out of position in that game. If I recall, I might be incorrect, but I don't
I
think he
think
was
he
playing
was
out of
centre
position.
forward, if I'm not mistaken.
Was he?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
could
Giroud
be.
was
Could
out.
have been.
Yeah,
Okay. But even so, I just think, yeah, I just think, him playing on the right wing is kind of giving people the impression that he's just a junk player and then kind of going, no, he's still a quality player. He just, I think we have to face facts where we're trying everything just to fit on that right wing, including Rebic, who's a good player, but not a right winger. So if we don't have any in the club that can fill it, it needs to be filled. So, yeah, based on that, 5 out of 10 for me. How about you?
yeah, same 5 out of 10. This right wing experiment, I think it came a little bit late, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of doubt because I do remember him as a second half of the season player. He
Mm.
This just might be another second half of the season performances where he gets, I don't know what, 10, 15 goals. Oh, sorry, more than
Mm.
10 goals the second half, which I think would take us towards the Scudetto. So
Big time.
this he's really getting into the rhythm of things again, because again, like with other players, he has a recurring injury. Doesn't help with the consistency. Other players play more while he's away. They're definitely building up that match fitness. For him off the bench, since he came back from injury, I think he's already started one game if I'm not mistaken. But for depth, I wouldn't mind having a Rebic around. It's better than
Mm.
having no player or a kid, because Rebic knows, yeah, he's developed chemistry with players in the team before. He scored goals before. He knows what to do. He knows the system. So I wouldn't rate him poorly. Yeah, five,
What
maybe
was
6 out of 10.
what was that really funny game where there was something happening in the forefront? It was just like a replay, and all you could see in the background was Rebic pushing the, was it the Spezia game?
No, no, I think that
Something
might have been the Cremonese. Maybe, yeah, I don't remember that.
was it? And you could just see like Rebic pushes the. That was like that was great. I think every club needs a player like that. You know, it's just
I did. I saw. I remember that it wasn't a hard push or anything. He wasn't like,
no, it was only
yeah,
just messing. You know, it was only like
yeah.
yeah, just deliberately trying to annoy someone. You know, I love that. It's great.
Oh, and that's about it. There's one player that I think I've missed. Yeah, I think it's. I don't have a picture of him. I think we missed out on Brahim Diaz.
Oh, we did. Well, the thing is everyone out there knows what Diaz looks like, even though he goes missing for 95% of the games every season. Nah, I know we didn't cover Diaz for sure, but
I'm just hoping that he's one of the photos, but yeah, it's not.
yeah. But no, the thing is with Diaz though, man, is I think look we shows great moments, then disappears. He's done it constantly. There's no sign that it's going to change. You know, it's not like he's going to. If we exercise the option to buy him next season, it's not like he's going to change and then suddenly became this great, very consistent player. You know, he's just not. So I mean, the only reason I would probably agree with Milan exercising the clause is just in case Real Madrid come back and say, "Oh, actually, shite, sorry, yeah, we want to exercise our clause now for 28 million. So here, you just take
Yeah, take the
five
five.
million."
Yeah, at least we get something.
Yeah, so at least we get something. But I'm just not a fan of. I'm not a fan of him playing. I think it's look. We know what we have now. We have a player who does some things, who plays maybe 5% of the games every season and does amazing things, and then for some reason he just disappears. So again, not consistent. Just like CDK, but at least CDK has the luxury of saying, right, I came from a junk league, and then I need to just get up to pace.
That junk league and
But
that junk team are in the round of 16 of Champions League, by the way.
they are indeed, actually. Yeah, sorry, that was very negative for Bruges fans. Sorry, apologies. Bruges are a good team, and they deserve to be in the Champions League second round as well. But the overall quality, the Belgian league, it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not
I know what
obviously
you mean.
it's not up there. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, you see games like the Juventus game, and he goes up, and even then, I was kind of thinking, like, he, as a player, he needs so much space that very often he's not going to get in the Italian league. You know what I mean? It's kind of like he just needs to. He can run at people very well, and if he has space, he can be dangerous. But how often he's going to get that in the Italian league? So for me, look, I'll give him a 6 out of 10. Because he has been relatively more consistent this year than he has been for us. So based on that, I'll give him a 6 out of 10, and especially for the Juve, the Juve, goal, that was great. But I don't want to see him here next season.
Okay, I know how you feel, but my take on it is that there are games for Brahim Diaz. So if you see the game against Juventus, I think that's really the game, sort of game for Diaz is whereby you play a team that are looking to get the goal or looking to score on you because Juventus they had nothing at that point. There was a lot of space behind. Those are the games where you need Brahim Diaz. But
Mm.
more often than not, we tend to get found out a little bit, and the teams they close down very quickly. Yes, he's not the sort of player to take down three, four, or five opponents in front of him. He can dribble one or two, but beyond that, I'm just not hopeful. And the other issue that I have with Diaz is that his last pass for the assist to anyone, it just doesn't connect well. Maybe it's the lack of chemistry or People not really realizing what he's trying to do, whether he's trying to shoot or he's trying to lay it off. For our system, I don't think he fits in that well. He will have his moments. He will score those goals, but we need someone with a high level of consistency. And I hope that CDK turns out well, because that's really the spot that CDK should take. We can't be gambling on performances by Diaz, whereby will someone muscle him off the ball? Will he be able to find the space? Will he get glued to the right wing? Which he's played right wing quite a bit now. Uh, I don't think that's the sort of players that we need. But if we did redeem him, and if we did redeem him, and Real Madrid didn't want him back, I wouldn't mind it as well. Yeah, so he's played with the guys, probably knows how we play, knows the opponents, knows the league. Not bad option, to be subbed on, especially when players are a little bit tired. Sorry, the opponents are a little bit tired, and you see gaps appearing there in their defense. Those are the sort of games that we need Brahim Diaz. But other than that, yeah, for the goals he scored a few. Yeah, so 6 out of 10. That's okay by me.
Hmm.
So Shane, yeah,
Excellent.
over 2.5 hours went through our
Oh
mid-season
man.
review. any any concluding comments? It's been a
So
little bit of
just
a marathon session for us.
it has just a very quick one. So now we know that, so the obviously the World Cup is upon us, right? So now we know Dest, Kier, CDK. Oh,
Balotore.
sorry, we didn't mention Fallow, or what's his name,
Oh yeah,
Toure,
Balotore.
whatever.
Yeah.
But let's just give him a one, just because of that one goal that he got, that clutch goal for us that won the game, and then let's move on, because screw it, he's going to be sold in January anyway. Right. But anyway, go back to the World Cup. So Dest, Kier, CDK, Balotore,
Giroud,
Giroud, Teo,
Theo.
and Leao.
Yeah,
Who do you think is going to surprise everyone at this World Cup out of those players?
Giroud. Because I know many
Hmm.
people have already written him off. The reason being that his age, and Benzema is on the team, so they're expecting Benzema to be the starting striker. What I read was that Benzema is out, I think, the first 2 games due to
Hmm.
injury, so Giroud will start. But can you imagine if Giroud scores in those 2 games? I don't see Benzema getting in, because they'll say that Benzema just came back.
Yeah, why would I change it?
Why would you take
Exactly.
a gamble? It's
Yeah.
a World Cup. You got to win.
Hmm. Fair point. Fair point. I'm not
How about you?
gonna, you know,
Please say
I
Balotore.
just
Please say Balotore.
no, 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 no. That's ridiculous. He's very limited
I
player.
think he starts for Senegal. I think. I don't know. I haven't seen a Senegal game in a while since the Afcon. Does he start for them?
Yeah,
I
I
don't think
believe
so.
so. I
Why not?
believe so. But the thing is just he's a very limited player. There's no um you can't suddenly become talented. You know, like you can have a good World Cup, but the talent has to be there. But I don't even see that with Balotore, to be honest. For me, I'm actually going to go for Dest. You know, I just think, it's probably a bit suicidal, because people are going to go, oh, why not Leao? Because I know obviously could say Giroud as well, and I agree with your statement on it. I think he's definitely got a lot to give. I don't think Leao is going to play for Portugal. If he does, he'll only get a couple of minutes because of Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Uh, Teo, I don't think he's a surprise anymore. I think everyone that knows what football is now should at least know how good Teo is. So it's no surprises there. CDK, I don't think he's going to start. I don't think he's going to get much minutes. Kier, even if he's a good World Cup, a good game for Kier is just being quiet and doing things professionally. So he's not going to get much credit. So I think maybe Dest for me. I think they have a good open group, the USA. I think who's it they have? They have England. They have, I think, Wales
Iran, I think. Yeah.
and Iran. Is it something like that?
I
So
think
I
so. Yeah.
mean, they're all relatively open teams. Like, so I mean, he can get up a good run. He can go in. He can spread the passes around. He can do some damage, assuming he starts. So yeah, for me, I don't know. I think that might surprise a few. This is where he gets injured in the first game and misses the World Cup. But anyway,
Yeah, that's the story.
yeah.
But what we want is that for those performances to be to come back into the squad. Time will tell.
Hmm. This is it, man. This is it. So I think that wraps it up.
Yeah. Well, thank you to those who are watching or tuning in later. Stay tuned for more great content. Uh, I think after this, we'll probably have some more Milan related videos. A lot of plans in the works, guys. So please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Anything you'd like to add, Shane?
Yeah, so definitely join us on the Twitter handle. So at Milanisti360. Obviously, like, subscribe. Really appreciate your support. We're planning on doing an awful lot more Milan based content. Wherever in the world you are, reach out to us, connect. More than glad to talk to you. Looking forward to it. Let's spread the Milan love. So, all good.
All right. So, as always, Forza Milan, guys. And yeah, catch you the next time.
Forza Milan.
See ya.
Italia!